on the second episode of a special 4-part Voices from Beyond series.
We need to have a heart-to-heart. Here's the thing. We've all been misled.
From deep inside the mysterious archives of the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal, it's the Haunted Objects Podcast.
Voices from Beyond.
Dana, you grew up as a ghost hunter.
I did.
How would you describe your ghost hunting style?
There was nothing serious about anything we were doing, and it was pure chaos, but we were really trying to be serious the whole time.
What do you think your overall goal was?
To capture evidence of dead people existing.
Was there anybody you were emulating? Did you have anybody that you watched or that you read that you were trying to live up to?
Well, the worst part is it was very likely you and Ghost Hunters Incorporated, who were the initial inspiration for the girly ghost hunters, as you know, and you love to rub in as much as
I
humanly
literally
possible.
wasn't asking you because of that. I thought you'd have some old researcher or something.
No, it was 100% you and episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
The stuff about Ghost Hunters Incorporated, I don't know about that.
A little terrifying
That's
in
unfortunate.
retrospect.
That's
yes.
very unfortunate in retrospect. What about you, Connor? You grew up ghost hunting, right?
Of course.
What age did you start?
12.
What? Same as us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Around the time the Ghost Hunters was getting popular. I emulated it with the home video camcorder, with the big DV tapes in the basement. I made my siblings play the other roles. It started out as like a kind of a parody kind of thing almost. Like, I know I just did. I'm getting a reading. 4.0. That's my grade point average in high school. 3.9.
Very nice.
3.5. 4.2. 4.1. It's getting colder. It's cold.
Connor! Connor! Oh, this is some serious business, people. Never approach an apparition.
And then when I was a teenager, when I was 17, I lied and said I was 18 and I applied to be a part of a paranormal group.
Nice.
They picked me
Nice.
and I spent like 5 years going houses to houses, basically emulating that ghost hunter style. Very serious, very methodical.
Did you have to roll out all the wires? That's the only thing I've only ever watched
yeah.
a few episodes of Ghost Hunters, and they're always rolling out
Of
wires.
course, and I'm the youngest guy on the team. Everybody
you had
else
to
was
do
like
it.
a middle-aged person with
Yeah.
a normal job.
Yeah.
Audio analyst.
Oh, that was your job?
Yeah, of course.
Audio analyst. What were the other titles?
Tech lead.
Oh, sure.
Was a big one.
Team lead is a
Team
big one.
lead.
That's
Yeah,
usually the
yeah.
person that started the team.
Team manager.
Yep.
Could
Yeah.
be different. That could be the person who just finds the location.
Sure. You guys had titles too, didn't you?
We didn't have titles until we did the television show, The Girly Ghost Hunters. And the funny thing is, I think we all had the same title except my sister.
No, what was your title?
Spirit communicator.
Spirit communicator.
But
And your favorite tool?
was dowsing rods.
That's dowsing rods.
Yeah.
You have this great anime style intro
We
to the show.
definitely did.
Where you guys are spinning around in a circle and then it does a freeze frame and you're all having your favorite tool.
Yeah, our favorite tool and our title, as you said.
And
but
your title.
we didn't really call ourselves by titles until then, because you had to classify yourself to be on television, apparently.
Sure.
You had to be cool. We had business cards as well.
Oh,
Because we were like the
that's
local
good.
affiliate. I remember taking the business cards and a girl I had a crush on in high school, I wrote out Connor audio analyst on the back of it and my phone number and trying to look cool.
Oh, that's so
was
cute.
cool.
Did it work?
No.
We had business cards too.
We did too.
What was your ultimate goal? What was your goal as a ghost hunter?
It was to help people.
Oh, that's right. That was a
Yes.
big one.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a really, really big one
Yeah.
from television.
Because you did a lot of residential stuff, and
I
that's
did.
usually to help people kind of angle.
What's crazy is I went back and counted on my old computer drive from years ago the list of the residential, and it was 43 residential
Damn.
investigations in 4 years.
That's crazy.
I mean, things were popping, but 12 a year is a lot.
Could you
That's a
imagine-
lot.
Have you been in 12 people's houses A year
A year?
since
No.
then? That's crazy. Can you imagine going into 12
Can
people's
you imagine
houses?
12 people inviting you into their home a year?
No. I've been in like one person's house this year, and it's Connor's house. I'm not even kidding. Like, think about that's crazy that you did that many of
That's
them.
crazy.
That's true.
But the shows were popping at that point.
Yeah.
And
They
so
were.
it was a thing
Yeah.
that people would want you to come out. In addition, we had the added benefit where back in the Ghost Hunter days, they had taps, right?
Yes,
and there
yes.
were like affiliates, and we were like
Oh, the Taps
Rocks
family.
Yeah, we were like the Rocky Mountain affiliate.
Yes.
And so stuff would be sent to the Ghost Hunters website
Mm-hmm.
to like try and get on TV. And if they were in the Rocky Mountain region, they would be referred to us.
God, we were opposite of all
I
of
know
that.
you were. I
Ghost
know
Hunters
you were.
Incorporated, there was a newspaper article that once described us as sugared up teens out for kicks. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Not there to help people.
No, your business card said we put the fun in funeral.
Yeah, we put the fun back in funeral, was literally what our business card said.
Yes.
We did a grand total of one residential case, and it was so terrible.
Yeah.
We vowed never to do it again.
Yep.
So we spent our formative years. It's funny that you said you started out kind of as a LARP. Like you guys were just having fun trying to emulate with your siblings, ghost hunters. My friends and I were trying to emulate Buffy.
Yes.
We were scaring a friend of ours in a cemetery, and we had so much fun that we were like, well, maybe we should do this for real. Like there's actually people out there. We listen to like Coast to Coast AM and stuff like that. So we're like, well, we can go and do this. And when we started to get scared and weird things started to happen, I mean, we genuinely saw a lot of weird stuff, but we weren't trying to prove anything to anybody. We were just like,
It was all about the vibes for you.
it was all about the vibes. Ghost Hunters Incorporated. The does that even mean?
I mean, there's a very famous photo of Ghost Hunters Incorporated, and it's all of you holding, like, brandishing weapons. Yeah. Like Nick Faust has a curtain rod for some reason.
Yep.
It is one of my favorite photos
Yeah.
of you ever, and you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, which
Of
also makes me
course.
very happy.
Of course. We were just having fun. Hated when Ghost Hunters came out. Because we
Yes.
started ghost hunting just a couple years before that. When Ghost Hunters came out and they started to give us rules.
Oh yeah.
We were like, oh, who are these old men telling us what to do?
yeah.
How are you going to get the evidence without the rules?
The spirit of play.
Absolute chaos.
There seems to be more weird stuff without structure.
Yes.
Thank you, George P. Hansen. There is one thing we could probably all have agreed on, though. The best kind of evidence.
The EVP was the best.
Well, today's episode of the Haunted Objects podcast is all about Ghost Hunter's favorite piece of evidence, the EVP.
Since the dawn of sound recording, our technology has been haunted by voices from beyond. Hidden below the background hiss of recorded silence, those listening closely have reported faint voices, sometimes no louder than a breath, emerging from the crackling static. These voices often appear pained, fragmented, and sometimes in foreign languages. Some respond to questions or curse in guttural whispers. Some sound human and others don't. While nearly all recording devices have experienced reports of electronic voice phenomena, one machine has earned a near mythical reputation for its ability to hear the dead. The Panasonic DR60. When activated in the silence of a darkened room, the DR60 appears to capture these ghostly voices with incredible consistency, and their messages seem to speak directly to those listening. But just where are those voices coming from? In this episode, we trace the history of EVP from its eerie appearances in the earliest magnetic recordings, directly to the ghost haunting today's digital devices. What we've discovered has forced us to confront a chilling possibility. Electronic voice phenomena may truly have an otherworldly origin.
An EVP. We're going to differentiate this from a lot of the stuff that you see nowadays where people are using like radios we would call those direct modes of transmission. So this is purely, when we talk about this, it is somebody capturing a voice on a recorded medium and playing it back later.
Electronic voice phenomena.
Yes. So this is not going to be what we would refer to as a disembodied voice, because you would hear that with your own ears in the moment. And it is not ITC, instrumental transcommunication. That is something that is direct and seems to have like a two-way conversation. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. But there will be a little bit of overlap between some of the names that you'll see. The two ways that people do most EVP sessions, even today, is they'll leave the recorder out and then they'll come back. There are dangers with that, though.
Yes.
There is a very funny story.
There is a very funny story. This is a great warning to anyone who's a fan of leaving out the digital recorder or the recorder for long periods of time. And there's someone that we knew who was on an investigation with a group of people, and they left their digital recorder going, and later on that night, they went back hours later, they picked it up, and a couple days later, they were reviewing the audio. And as they were reviewing the audio, it turns out the other people that were there on the investigation with them were talking mad shit about them.
In the room with the recorder talking absolute shit.
So the long-term angle of leaving your recorder for many hours, just be aware that you possibly might record someone talking shit about you. It's entirely possible. And it's caused, I'm sure, many a beef in the paranormal community.
People listening to this episode have experienced similar things.
100%.
But I would argue that's probably the ghost hunters method. That's the method that I think most people picked up from ghost hunters, because they were trying to be at least what they believed and portrayed as scientific.
100%.
So that's like, don't with the recorder at all.
Yeah.
Leave it. Mark everything that's in the room. Any weird sound you hear, yell it out.
Yeah, you have to listen to like 10 hours of just dead air.
Connor did.
Yeah,
the youngest person on the team would be forced to do that.
Audio analyst.
The audio analyst.
Thank you.
Junior audio analyst Connor.
It wasn't junior. It was
senior.
Senior audio analyst.
Only audio analyst Connor.
And then there was the burst method.
The burst method.
What's the burst method?
So the burst method, I believe, I want to give Ghost Adventures credit for the burst method.
I think they popularized it.
I definitely
if they didn't just come up with it.
I'm going to give Ghost Adventures credit for the burst method. The burst method came on the scene in the early 2000s, likely because of Ghost Adventures, and it was because those guys did not want to wait around. And I don't blame them, because it gets really boring.
Well, listen, if you watch, I would love for you to go back to watch like an early 2000s episode of Ghost Hunters, and then immediately follow it up with an episode of Ghost Adventures.
Whiplash.
It is whiplash. Yes. They're two completely different ways of doing things.
Yes. So the burst method is that you stand around the digital recorder, but it's in burst sessions. So you ask questions, you stop it, you play it back. And I think there's something really interesting about that method, because if you think about it, it kind of keeps this really energetic kind of vibe going throughout the course of your investigation.
Absolutely. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get as close as they can to like a one-one conversation with the stuff that was available at the time.
And often it would dictate the course of their investigation.
But that's kind of exciting.
Yes.
That's an exciting way to do it.
Yes.
If maybe not the most quote unquote scientific.
Maybe
and again,
not.
You're going to hear most of this stuff is not scientific at all.
No.
We're not saying that that's a bad thing.
No, it's
because we're still getting somewhere with this.
Exactly. And it's all about, at that point in time, Ghost Adventures sort of made a different way of doing this.
Absolutely.
They brought their own vibe. As everyone knows, they changed the way that people were doing paranormal investigations. Right. And so, quite often the line of questioning would then carry on throughout the course of the investigation and direct the investigation for the most part.
I mean, it's 2025 and they're the only ghost hunting television show that's still being made.
I feel like they've been on the air for 800 years.
I don't know. One's definitely more entertaining to watch.
I mean, that, 100%.
I don't know if you guys are like me, where I picked that up too.
Yeah,
eventually.
Sure. Yeah.
And partly why I did it, like I said in the beginning of the Stanley Hotel, I would leave the recorders running.
Sure.
Even while I was, with members of the public who were paying to learn how to ghost hunt from me, right?
Yes.
But then pretty quickly, a year or so in, switched into just doing those burst sessions.
Yeah.
Because it's faster. It's more entertaining
Yes.
for people.
Absolutely is.
It gives everybody, there's an interactivity to it.
Yes,
That's exactly it.
It's fun to think of a question.
Yeah.
And so like when you're leading public tours, and you guys have done that a lot too, the
ton.
burst session, how long do you go? It's like 2 minutes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Did you guys ever deal with the Class A's through Class C's when you guys were doing it? Because you guys were
of
pretty
course.
scientific about it.
Yeah, because you want people to know how closely they need to listen,
Sure.
right? So it's kind of like, hey, no, this is a Class C. It's way down there. I'm not sure we're going to pass it off to the client.
Oh,
Right.
Oh,
right.
I
Would be like the
see.
verbatim.
Got
Okay.
it.
But if it's like, this is a Class A, you can clearly tell what's being said.
Sure.
That obviously would go on.
Did you ever use classifications?
No.
No, we never used them
No,
either.
never.
It was either our classification was, oh, that's badass.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Or
what
I
is
can't
that?
understand that.
Yeah.
It was either this is spooky as hell or this sucks.
Yes.
Dana's would have been in the metric system anyway.
That's probably true.
Yeah, that's true.
I always keep joking that we would have been, because I'm Canadian, we would have had Class A.
Oh, God. They were
I had
all
to do
Class A's.
Class A?
Oh, God, Dana.
I know.
I went to the Ghost Adventures subreddit to find out what the difference was between Class A, Class B, Class C.
Yes.
And this is what somebody had to say. It's how EVPs are classified. Class A, very clear, easy to hear, and usually a full sentence.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So that's new to me.
Yeah. So
that's a Class A.
You got a full sentence in there.
Full sentence. Class B, fairly clear, though hard to decipher. Class C is usually something short like a breath or a small humming noise.
Okay.
So now we know, the experts at the Ghost Adventures subreddit have told us, the top comment to that is, I feel like most of the ones from the digital recorder are either B or C, but he always says A. I can't understand what the heck most of their recordings are saying. I hate when they use that thing, lol.
No.
And then somebody says, I close my eyes and listen prior to seeing what their on-screen translation is. What I hear rarely matches their transcription.
I do the same thing.
That's why we're going to do the EVPs the way we're going to do in this
Yes.
episode.
Yeah.
Is so that you can make up your own mind. Then we'll
Yep.
tell you what we hear.
So it's time for the viewer to have the Ghost Adventures experience
Yep.
on the Haunted Objects podcast.
It's a great opportunity for us to maybe share some of our greatest hits.
I think that would be very fun.
What we're going to do is we're going to give you a little bit of backstory about each one of these recordings, basically generally about when it was recorded, and then we're going to play it for you. We won't tell you what we think it says, and then we'll discuss it. We'll tell you what we think it says, and we'll play it again. So that way you hear it without anything in your head, and then we'll tell you what we think we hear, and then you'll see if you hear the same thing. And we'll do this with a few of our best ones.
Okay.
Well, who wants to start? Where do we want to start? You want to start with Dana?
All right, let's start. So the beginning part, you'll probably hear my voice.
Yes.
And I'm talking about a latch. We were in a farmhouse and we were unlatching the door to go up the stairs, the back stairs up to the children's bedroom. And so you'll hear me saying, there's a latch, just unlatch the thing. And then what you hear after that is a voice saying, come up and see me.
In a very typical EVP
It's very
fashion.
spooky.
It's very faint, but
Yeah.
you'll hear it there, and it really does. It sounds like someone saying, come up and see. Come up and see me. Ooh. Ooh,
It's
come
a
up and
good
see
one.
me.
It's good.
That's a spooky one.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
And that one, I mean, once you know what you're looking for, you can very clearly hear it. Say, come up and see me.
Yeah, the nice thing about filming Girly Ghost Hunters is that we were, much like Connor, we had to go through all of the audio ourselves. So we found all of the EVPs ourselves by literally just listening
They
to
made you
ours.
do that on a television show.
They made us
They
do
didn't
it-
have some audio person doing that for you.
No, and actually we requested to do it because we were very paranoid. It was we were worried that that maybe they would sweeten them,
There'd be
maybe
some
they
funny
would pick some
business.
things out. Yeah, so we
Do you
were.
think that happens?
I mean, maybe. It
So
didn't have
you were an audio analyst too?
I was also an audio
Yeah.
I was an audio analyst / spirit communicator / dowser.
I was an audio analyst / paranormal therapist. I was the world's first audio analyst.
I knew you were going that
was
direction.
good. That's
I knew you were
good.
gonna do it.
Greg, let's hear one from you.
Okay, this one comes from a place that my friends and I used to ghost hunt all the time. It was a spooky old church out from where I'm from. Still to this day, the most haunted place I think I've ever been. You've been there before. I
Yep.
think you've even been there, haven't you, Connor?
Yeah.
We used to go there all the time.
Yeah.
This one came from this like crappy RCA, this like bright orange RCA recorder we used to use all the time.
Yep.
I think Gowan even made a joke. He was like, this thing catches the best EVPs and it doesn't even have a back cover.
Yeah, he would hold the battery in with his thumb.
He'd have to hold the battery in with his thumbs.
Is it this one?
That one, that's it.
That's the
Yeah. That's the
one.
one, the RCA. Seen many adventures, but there's only really like half a dozen really good EVPs we ever caught with this thing.
Yes.
This thing was we probably did this around 2003, 2002. That sounds about right. And let's see if you hear what the response from the ghost was.
March 7th.
I mean, I think it's so clear. I've heard it
sounds
so
clear
many
to me
times.
because I've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
Let's do it one more time.
March 7th.
It's so clear.
All right. If it's not clear to you, because again, this is part of this episode. What it sounds like it says, at least has always sounded to us, was you hear Jason say, it's March 7th. And then we all hear a voice that was not there at the time say, I don't know what day it is.
March 7th.
It's so clear.
So clear.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. What about you, Connor?
All right. I'm going to play a couple from the Stanley Hotel.
I love that you have all these.
Going to try and not play any in my collection that are from people's private homes. And so
Got one of Connor's 44 home investigations.
So we're left
Yeah.
with the Stanley Hotel, which I don't want to brag, but I think Carl and I might have investigated more than anybody else.
I think you have.
100%.
Alive.
And here's the other thing. It's also like one of the most iconic haunted places in the
Yeah.
world. You guys were the resident investigators there. Basically dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. What I'm going to play you now are two EVPs from a very special night. There was a week, this was several years ago, maybe 2014, where the Stanley Hotel's lobby's floors were being redone.
Oh, you've told us about this.
They didn't accept any guests
Cool.
for that time. And so the Stanley Hotel was empty. And this is the true opportunity to do this. And this will really probably be the only time in our lifetime career as ghost hunters that the Stanley Hotel will be empty. Oh, man. And Carl and I, having the keys, went up and we had the whole place to ourselves. We were up on the upper guest floors, not on the lobby, but the upper guest floors. We had the keys. We were, maybe the management will be mad, but we did this, but we were opening every door. We were wandering up and down the hallways. And there's actually a video that Carl made, I think, of one of those nights that we'll post the links to. But so what I did is I set audio recorders on all of the floors of the Stanley Hotel. Totally empty, just Carl and I walking around. You'll hear a couple of voices. I'll play the first one now.
Okay.
Okay. What I hear, this was again a recorder
is so
completely
good.
alone in the empty Stanley Hotel. I hear knock, knock, knock.
Yep.
Not sure where that's from. It's an old building, maybe settling, but I hear knock, 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 and then a female voice say, "You have to help me."
It's clear as a bell to
It's
me.
so clear. It's so good.
You have to help me.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like the pattern like of someone knocking on a door, like
Yes.
do. Like it's sort of like the way that it sounds is so. It just sounds very human
Connor,
to
that's
me.
so good.
Yeah.
It was a cool night. Here's another one.
So is this from the
that
same
night as well.
Wow.
Who was that?
I don't know.
I don't know. That's spooky.
I hear again. It's this recorder, literally this one right here,
Wow.
sitting alone on the 4th floor of the Stanley Hotel. You hear, it sounds like a little kid's voice go, "Excuse me."
It really does.
Mhm.
There's a little bit of a sound of maybe some interference or something.
It does.
On
It does
the
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Usually-
electronic noise.
That's a spooky one.
That's
Also
so
a spooky
spooky.
one. Just to finish the trifecta, I'll play you one really quick one.
This is
was
my favorite.
One of the. Should I play that one?
This is my favorite.
Oh, I was going to play a different
you
one.
want to play a different one?
Okay,
Do you want to save that one?
Save it till
Yeah,
the
we'll
end.
make people keep listening.
Okay, okay.
It's
There's
so
a really,
perfect.
really good one. I think it might be
Oh
the
my-
best one I've ever heard of yours.
Honestly, it is one of the best ones I've ever heard. Period.
And this one in particular was from an investigation of a business. You'll hear a female investigator. This was my friend Steve caught this on an investigation I was with him on. You'll hear a female investigator saying, a few words. That's a real person, and then a ghost seems to give a response.
Still you? No, you're in here. You're still in here.
So you hear, "I know you're in here," and then right after that, "I'm just behind you."
Oh.
Still you? No, you're in here.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Heard it. I'm just behind you.
Ugh, why you gotta say it like that?
Spooky ooky.
Ghosts seem to say spooky things.
Yes,
I mean,
they do.
maybe that's why they have such a spooky reputation.
If I was a ghost, I would be saying the most diabolical shit to people all day
Oh
long.
my God. Can you imagine?
It would be so
Maybe that's what they're
fun.
doing.
I mean,
Maybe they are doing that.
it would be so fun just to absolutely terrorize people.
Yeah.
I would be doing it all day long.
When the paranormal lurks in every shadow, and each mysterious artifact hides a ghostly tale, one show dares to uncover the truth. The Haunted Objects Podcast. Now you can wear the mystery. Introducing the official Haunted Objects merchandise. Hats, shirts, pins, and more. All designed by independent artists, manufactured by small businesses, and carrying the undeniable essence of the unexplained. Embrace the legend. Wear the mystery. Visit planetweird.store today.
So now you've heard all kinds of our own EVP recordings. You've
Yeah.
heard them from all of our childhood recorders. Connor actually has them all in his hand right now.
Yeah, he's holding them all up.
These are the recorders that we used when we were super ghost hunters.
Yep.
Going out all the time.
Super Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Hunters Incorporated, the Girly Ghost Hunters, and what was your team's name?
Front Range Paranormal Investigations.
Nice.
Front Range Paranormal Investigations. So let's talk about where EVPs came from. So if we're going to talk about the history of EVPs, the first thing I'll say up front, because I know if we don't mention this, people in the comments will bring it up.
Yeah.
There were some monks early on who were playing with some old recording tapes and like captured some weird stuff on them, but they didn't really do much with it. So we're going to skip past those guys.
Yeah.
We're not going to give much credit to the monks. I'm sorry. We're going to give it instead. The father of modern EVP is widely considered to be Friedrich Jurgensen. Back in the 50s, 1957, he was recording himself singing. He was an artist, so he was recording himself singing. He wanted to go and he wanted to record some birds outside. He went outside, he made this recording, he came inside to play it, and then he heard something strange.
Yes.
First, he heard a hissing noise, which I think is interesting. That might become important later. He heard a hissing noise, and then he heard trumpets. And the trumpets felt like they were announcing something that he should pay attention to. This is weird because in the previous episode of our Voices from Beyond series, we also talked about trumpets.
Yeah.
Trumpets were a big deal when it came to hearing voices from beyond, when it came to channeling voices. We talked about the Coons family.
Yeah.
And about how their little boy was using a trumpet almost like an angel to make announcements that were very philosophical. Well, Jurgensen heard trumpets, and he knew he was supposed to pay attention to this, and he did, and he heard voices come after the trumpets. They were talking about nightly bird voices.
Yeah, and they were speaking in Norwegian.
And then it just went back to the regular birds chirping.
Yeah.
And again, we have to stress, these trumpets were not there when he made this recording.
Yes, yeah.
1957, that meant that these were reel-to-reel recorders. These were magnetic tapes.
Yeah.
And they just kind of came out of nowhere. Jurgensen became obsessed with this, so he started doing more and more recordings with the purpose of trying to capture what these strange voices were. They were usually pronounced, again, they would begin with this hissing noise. I don't know if he ever heard the trumpets again. Did he hear the trumpets again after that?
Not that he wrote about in his book, at least. Not that I saw. There would be a hissing noise, but the thing is, he initially, you were looking at his book, the first 3 chapters of his book, he uses a totally different source than dead people, which I love.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me because I think this gets skipped over all the time, and you'll see that this is a recurring theme over and over and over again. People start to hear voices, and they immediately think that they're from outer space.
Yeah.
Not dead people. It's never dead people to begin with.
No, they come to that conclusion later on, but initially they think that they're speaking to UFOs.
Even in the case of the Coons family out here in Ohio that we talked about in the previous episode in the series, they thought that these were voices from the heavens. They thought they were angels.
Yeah.
It wasn't dead people.
Yeah.
It was angels, something from space. Well, same thing happened with Jurgensen. He actually wrote an entire book about this. It's only available in Swedish. We tried to find a copy of this thing. I even tried to find a PDF that we could translate. Could not find anything. The title of it translates to The Voices from Space. So he thought these were space aliens.
Yeah.
These were UFOs speaking to him. And you think about the time period, the 50s, UFO craze was bonkers at that time period. The Space Brothers were coming. They were telling people about warning us about nuclear power.
Yeah.
I can imagine why he would think that.
Yeah, and this will also be a theme that carries on in future episodes. Which is very interesting, I think.
And again, fascinating to me that nobody really ever talks about the fact that all of these people don't immediately associate these strange voices with dead people.
That comes along a little bit later on.
Yeah. This UFO theory continued for a while until he believed that he heard his own mother's voice.
Yes.
She was deceased. His own mother's voice came through, and it really flipped the switch on all of this. He stopped thinking that these were UFOs. And he started thinking, well, wait a second. What if these are picking up the voices from the dead?
And so much that his next book, after The Voices from Space, that was a lot more widely published, is Voices of the Deceased.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, you see it totally happen.
Yeah.
I could argue, and I don't know if you two would agree, that the moment that Jurgensen thought that he heard his mother's voice,
yes,
EVPs became about ghosts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Immediately.
And
Yes.
they've been like that ever since.
Ever since. This is page 33 of his book, Voice Transmissions with the Deceased. He says, I'm honest enough to admit with my readers that back in 1959, I had this idea that afterwards proved to be wrong. I connected these mysterious voices to the tapes with the so-called unidentified flying objects, the UFOs. Back then, the number of sightings of these mysterious flying objects had surpassed 100,000, and there practically wasn't a country in this world over which these mysterious flying objects hadn't been observed. The thought that there was a connection between the male and female voice on the tape and a crew of a UFO wasn't really too far-fetched. In addition to that, observations and adventures by my family and myself just served to strengthen the presumption that we could be dealing with extraterrestrials. I would like to spare me a detailed accounting and would just like to ask the reader not to jump to conclusions that I may have been leaning towards the fantastic fairy tale hopes and combinations. You must have the courage to admit to error. I think it's funny that he thinks, sorry, I was really silly thinking that these voices were from UFOs.
Yeah.
They're dead people.
Yeah.
Don't listen to what I was saying before this.
Yeah.
But there is an interesting note there. When we were going over the notes for this episode, Connor pointed out it's strange that we don't know what those adventures with he and his family were about that made him think even more strongly that these were extraterrestrials. I would love to know.
I know. There's got to be good stories in there somewhere.
This is a great time for a plea to any of our Swedish listeners.
Yes.
Any of our Norwegian listeners, Swedish listeners, if you can find a copy of his original book and find it for us and like send us some quotes from it, I would love to read this.
We would love that.
I think it says a lot about the popularity of the dead people theory over the UFO theory that one of his books was translated into English and the other was not.
Here's the thing about Jurgensen too. You might wonder what kind of things was he hearing on these voices. Frankly, fun stuff.
I love it.
One of my favorite stories from the book. He is sitting in the chair doing some recordings up in his art studio. Has the big, reel-to-reel recorder running, and he is hanging out with his dog. His dog's name is Carino. He suddenly gets a phone call, goes downstairs, goes to answer the phone. It's his wife on the phone. He's kind of impatient with her. He's like, I'm running a recording right now. And he says that she was asking a few questions. They were talking for a bit. They talked for about 6 minutes. During the course of his phone call, though, his dog, Carino, went upstairs, right? So he's sitting there, he's talking to his wife on the phone. His dog suddenly goes upstairs while he's on the phone. And he walks back upstairs, and his dog is sitting in the chair, wagging his tail. Well, he stops the recording, goes back to listen, and there's 6 minutes of silence where you hear him put the headphones down, go downstairs. You can't hear his phone call downstairs, just a little microphone. And then suddenly a voice comes across the recorder, and it's talking to his dog.
I love it.
Cute.
And the voice calls his dog upstairs and says, Carino, do you hear me? This is a quote from his book. Carino, do you hear me? Asked a friendly male voice in a half tone. The poodle then jumped on the chair and started to shake. The chair started to shake and rattle noisily. Carino, here is the apparatus. It sounded in the silence of the room, followed by a question. Carino, do you know me? As an answer, Carino made several smacking sounds with his mouth. It didn't come to any further conversation because you can now hear me coming up the stairs noisily. I opened the door and hurried to the table. I placed Carino on the bed and I shoved the headphones back on. Very cute that there was like direct interaction. Everything was very friendly. They were just having these nice conversations with these strange voices from space, from the dead, whatever it was.
One of the first EVP contactees was an animal.
Yeah. Yes.
Carino.
That is crazy.
And it proves that even ghosts love dogs.
That's true. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love dogs? Space people or ghosts, they all love dogs.
I do think, we're joking, but I do think it's interesting that the dog understood what was coming through this.
Yeah.
So even that is fascinating in and of itself
you're right.
because a dog can understand what's going on enough to be curious about it.
Well, I think what the also other implication is that the dog could hear the voice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he couldn't in the moment until he played it back. Right?
Oh, you're so
And
right.
so
Yes.
the dog got a call. He goes upstairs. His name is Carino. Carino, the EV poodle, if you will.
poodle.
Right?
Poodle.
Very cute.
Runs upstairs. He can hear him. So who knows what dogs can hear.
Oh, that's fascinating. I love it. Well, they always say that dogs and animals in general can see things that we can't. We learned about the mantis shrimp in the episode about auras, and I've got to tell you, nothing has ruined my perception of the world more than knowing that a mantis shrimp is closer to seeing the face of God than I am.
It's true.
It's a shrimp. Anyway, animals are special.
They are.
And that, I think, helps prove it.
Jurgensen's story gets weirder from there, but we'll save some of that for next week.
That'll come next week.
But know that he did have a student. He did have an EVP bestie.
He did.
He did.
Named
Konstantin Radova. Radova is who most people probably know of when you think of EVPs.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Breakthrough, which is like one of the seminal texts about EVP and ITC, which we'll talk about next week. He was born in 1909. He died in 1974. He was a Latvian psychologist who studied under Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm.
How weird is that?
It's pretty incredible.
We're pretty big fans of Jung's ideas about archetypes and things like that. We talk about it quite a bit in Hellier.
Yeah.
It's just funny to see that all of this stuff kind of ties back to a lot of the same names. You see them come up over and over again.
A lot of the same kinds of minds tend to kind of find one another. And it's cool to
true.
see these like pockets and moments where these people are sort of thinking together and creating things, which is very interesting.
Radova met Jurgensen in Sweden in 1965, and so for the next few years, they conducted their recordings together. One of the fun things that is about these two guys is they had quite contrasting personalities. Connor compared them earlier to like Gray Barker, because Gray Barker was always kind of fun and silly about his stuff. He didn't really care too much about like the hard truth of it. It was more about the poetry.
Yeah, and the very analytical Keel.
And then there was Keel, who was like, I'm going to write down every
detail
date and time that these things are seen, so I know exactly how this works. But they were still friends, and they investigated the stuff together. That was like Jurgensen and Radova. They were the same way. Radova was a lot more serious about it.
It's
and
like
he was...
Hall & Oates.
Is that true? Is that the way that works?
They're the Hall & Oates of EVPs.
In 1971 is when Breakthrough came out. Breakthrough came with a vinyl record. We'll actually put a copy of it on screen. We'll probably play a couple of these EVPs from it. This record was one of the first times that people had access to a lot of this stuff. You have to remember, the internet wasn't around back then.
Yeah.
You had to go and you had to have this record that you would play on a record player, and you could hear on this record Radova's recordings of voices with the dead.
Can you imagine how scary that would have been for people at that time period who would have never heard anything like this before? And it's not like YouTube now where you can go and listen to, or like TikTok, you can hear pretty much anything you want to hear. You used to have to order this and get this and then sit in your living room and play this and listen to it. It must have been so much fun. The idea of that is so fun to me. And also terrifying.
In the 70s and 80s, there were even magazines. They had an issue of one of these magazines. I think it was Unknown Magazine, actually, that had an issue all about EVPs, and it included a Flexadisc record that you could put and listen to these while you read the article.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're all in German, most of them. Most of these recordings are in German.
Yeah. Not only that, Radova was multilingual.
Oh, right. He spoke a ton.
Something like 6 languages, apparently.
Yeah.
And would catch voices in all of those languages. Interesting conversation point, though, that Jurgensen only, I believe, spoke 1 or 2 languages. He talks in his book about having to get dictionaries.
Oh, that's cool.
For the recordings.
Fascinating.
So they're picking up multiple things.
Well, you know, what's funny about that is, you know, this idea that these different people are picking up languages. Some of them they can speak, some of them they can't. My friends and I, we haven't played this EVP yet. My friends and I actually got an EVP in German once in a location that did have a German history.
Yeah.
We could not speak German. We had to take this to our German teacher and have him translate it for us.
It's pretty incredible. It's one of my favorites.
We'll play that. We can play that now. What it actually says is, it says, I sprich, which is, I speak. Imagine hearing that as a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah, that's good.
And then your German teacher, your distance learning German teacher tells you, oh, that means I speak. Oh my God.
I can't even imagine.
That must have been what they were seeing when they were doing EVPs back in the day.
Let's hear some of Radova's examples.
Then, in Swedish and German, du sowas willst nicht glaube.
Yeah, you can hear it.
You are sleeping. You do not want to believe.
I like that mixture of kind of the front loading and then the translating afterwards. This is a cool record.
Yes. The thing that you need to know about all of these recordings is because of the time period, all of these EVPs would have been on analog tape.
Yes.
So we should talk a little bit about analog tape and how that works before we move on to more recent EVP recordings. what we're really looking at, if we want to be really specific, it's not all EVP. It's AVP, analog voice phenomena, versus electronic voice phenomena.
Yes.
Because the analog tapes worked a little bit differently than the stuff that we have today. When you're thinking about analog recording devices, what you're thinking about is magnetic tape, whether it was an old reel-to-reel, like we've got back here on the set, or it was like a cassette recorder, or something like you were using when you first started Girly Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, mini cassette recorder.
Mini cassette recorders.
This is one I've used on sessions as well.
Look at that.
Yep, there you go.
There's a lot of people, like some of the old timers swear by using analog recording versions of EVPs. They swear by that. They say that's the only ones that you should use, some of them. And there's some really spooky stuff, as you were just hearing with some of Radava's stuff. There's really spooky stuff that way. The way that these work is, the cassette tape has these tiny magnetic particles that are actually on the tape itself. So there's these long spools of tape. The longer the spools are, the longer you can record for. Well, they're filled with all that tape has magnetic particles all over it. It's an oxide powder, which is ferromagnetic. When they are placed within a magnetic field, you can actually rearrange all of those powders.
Like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Exactly. It's like an Etch-a-Sketch. That's a perfect visualization of the way that works. So while recording, there's a tiny gap and the tape passes by that gap. When it passes by it, there's a magnet or a coil there that's magnetic, and the electrical signal gets stored on the tape as that coil moves. And then the magnetic particles are rearranged according to that magnet.
And then it stays that way.
It stays that way.
That's also why you can go over and re-erase it. You can just rearrange the particles on the tape.
Yes.
Which is possible to do too.
One of the fun things we've heard is that because of the way that this works with an actual tape, if you capture an EVP on actual analog tape, you could actually cut that tape out and then have yourself a souvenir of that EVP. You could frame that piece of tape, and that EVP would be stuck there
forever.
Unless you ran a really powerful magnet over it.
Or if you did that.
The same way as like a disk drive kind of deal. If we fast forward now, we talked about Radava. There was a lot of stuff happening in like the 50s. If we fast forward a bit to the 80s, we meet a woman named Sarah Estep. Sarah Estep founded the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena in 1982.
So they were just interested in EVPs,
They were just interested in EVPs.
All right.
There are a bunch of other people who started to get involved with EVP around that same time. There was a guy named Mark Macy who had the International Network for Instrumental Transcommunication. Now, this starts to get a little bit different than EVPs. We'll talk more about ITC next week, but these guys were interested in EVPs too. So all of these people were starting to look at EVPs in a new way. It starts to get a little new agey, as these things tend to do. But Radava becomes a very big figure. He's inspired all of these people and all of the methods that they're using to capture EVPs. In fact, if you go back and you read Radava's book, Breakthrough, most of it is like schematics and diagrams and tips about how to capture this stuff. There's a ghost hunting tool that you can still buy today called a Radava circuit. And it's a Radava diode is what it is. And you can buy that, plug it into your recording device, and it's supposed to help you capture more EVPs.
That's cool.
So Radava was a very influential figure to all of these people. Radava passed in the 70s. And then he started talking to these people in the 80s from beyond the grave. What better group of people to make contact with Radava?
And you look at all these old blogs, these people were very much coming at it from a life after death angle. And that's, I know that still kind of is the case with EVPs, but there's even a couple of, old forums and societies and stuff that some of it's kind of sad. Some of it is trying to reach my loved one. Some of it is like, I'm desperately trying to build a bridge so that I can talk to my deceased child again. Some of this gets really deep and serious pretty quickly when you start to consider EVP that way, which sort of makes the ghost hunting shows feel a little bit flippant sometimes, right?
Isn't that funny that talking to space aliens is really fun?
Yeah.
But when you start to see why there's been such a press to make the stuff about ghosts, you find all of these really sad stories.
Yeah, the stakes are so much higher in that situation where you have someone who's probably grieving and looking for some way to feel that they can communicate with a family member. It's a totally different thing than having fun and trying to talk to space aliens. Like I said, the stakes are a lot higher in that situation.
You guys remember that movie, EVP?
No.
There was a movie that came out.
Vaguely remember
You
this
remember
movie?
this? I saw this movie in the theater because I was into ghost hunting. It came out, I think it had to have been like the late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah.
Batman was in it.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton
was in it. That's right.
Michael Keaton was in it. And it was the same story. I think he was like trying to contact his dead kid or his dead wife or something like that.
Dang.
But like you can imagine that it could be something that people could become really obsessed with if they really if they felt as if it was something that could allow them to communicate with a family member.
Yeah.
It could become something that probably could be kind of detrimental to their mental health if they're really, really obsessing over trying to make this work and trying to figure out how to do it.
Well, the forums are all there and you can read it all for yourself.
There's
Not
a
to
lot
bring
of
it
that.
down.
The thing is they were also very much, some of the heads of these organizations were very much into building a bridge.
Yes.
And believing that it's possible to build a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seems like the bridge from the other side started to kind of reach out to them a little bit. We'll play this for you.
Again, at this point, everybody's focused on building a bridge between the living and the dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they believe that EVPs are. The space aliens ideas out the door. Mark Macy starts to receive some strange recordings on his answering machine that are from Rodova. Keep in mind, Rodova has been dead at least a decade at this point.
This is Constantine Rodova speaking. We just tried to contact George Meek. We succeeded, but he didn't get what we wanted to tell him. Here we were talking to him that we tried to make a mediumistic contact to Dean Peterson, and he wanted to register by other means, electric means. There will be no telephone contact rather to the RITC group, colleague Mark, until you will have strengthened the bridge, the mediumistic bridge, to our time stream group. This is Constantine Rodova speaking.
In this recording, I mean, we'll have the transcription on screen. You can read it directly from Mark Macy's website. It is allegedly Constantine Rodova speaking.
Yeah.
He's mentioning people that he's worked with. He's mentioning people that Macy worked with. There's a guy named George Meek who we'll hear more about in the next episode of this series.
Yeah, he's mentioning the mediumship bridge. Like it's very creepy.
And this is coming on a answering machine.
Yeah.
Now, it's worth saying that one of the things that Mark Macy claims is that he was actually having phone calls with Constantine Rodova at the time too. But we would argue that that's not an EVP.
Yeah.
An EVP is a recording.
Yes.
Not direct transmission.
Yes.
Here's the other spooky thing. He said that there's a couple other voicemails from a couple other people with Rodova with that same voice, that eerie.
Yeah.
You know what? Carl and I, for the last 10 years, have been answering each other's phone calls like that.
No, I heard him do it.
We'll be like, hello. We'll be like, this is Constantine Rodova speaking. And so that wasn't the only contact. Here's the thing. Mark Macy was also claiming that there were spooky imposters.
Yes.
Also mimicking Rodova's voice at the same time and also leaving voicemails on his answering machine.
Oh my God.
Those voices are strange too. This is so here's a little collection that Mark Macy made of 3 different voices saying Constantine Rodova, but it's not his voice. He thinks it's an imposter.
Oh, that's so creepy.
I don't know how they managed to be creepier than the first one, but it's so strange because you can hear that each of them have a different sort of cadence, but they're trying to
One of
sound.
them feels sped up.
Yeah. Well, the first one's very tinny. It sounds like it's coming through a pipe or something like that.
Or a trumpet.
Or a trumpet. Yeah.
It sounds like one of them sounds like a rubber band.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it's being stretched out over the frequencies. Constantine Rodova. The ways that it's an eerie voice. That one gave me chills when I heard it the first time.
I need to read this website description before we pass over this because the description of what Mark Macy says that voice is or those voices are is so spooky. He says, this is a voice of a spirit imposter from Earth's shadow who was trying to disrupt our work in 1996. Our spirit friends identified him as a, quote, negative spirit called Afra, who misrepresents himself in the TAD message below as Konstantin Radova. From Earth's shadow. See, and then Afra, that stuff sounds like Space Brothers stuff to me.
It
That sounds
definitely
like
does.
ultra-terrestrial UFO stuff.
Men in Black, international bankers. That sounds like a Man in Black voice.
That's how I would imagine that, like, exactly what they would sound like. They would have that, like, weird, tinny, strange, unearthly sound.
Yeah. Why don't more people get weird answering machine messages these days?
I almost wonder if it's because the idea of like phoning someone is already anxiety inducing enough.
You think the ghosts have social anxiety these days?
Yeah,
like everybody else?
Hopefully maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
We're always lamenting the fact that none of us are receiving like Men in Black phone calls. You know, we especially with like the Hellier case, we're always worried. Why aren't the Men in Black? Do they just send emails these days?
Yeah.
Do they send text messages?
It just goes through Scam Likely, right?
That's true.
I don't know.
It just goes through Scam Likely.
I don't know.
I mean, I screen my calls anyway these days, so I don't know. Here's the weird thing, though. We did last year.
Yes.
Dana got a strange voicemail that was very spooky and has a lot of spooky implications. And this might be a good time to share that, actually.
Yeah, so I got a very strange voicemail, and I don't get a lot of voicemails. I should say, first off, my phone number is not listed, so it's a weird thing for anyone to call my phone ever. I wouldn't answer it anyway, but it's a strange thing. So just to set this up, the reason that it's so strange is also because of exactly when it happened, which was very strange. So one afternoon, Greg was working in the museum room, in the seance room. And I heard him from the other room go, I have to go to the hospital. And I thought he was joking. And I was like, what do you mean? And he came around the corner and there was blood dripping out of his hands. Yeah. And it was getting everywhere. And do you want to tell them what you had done?
I had accidentally, or not accidentally, depending on some of the circumstances around how this happened, with a specific artifact we talk about on tour. Tickets on sale now, newkirktour.com, if you want to come see it. Anyway, I accidentally stabbed myself with a ritual dagger through the palm of my hand.
Yes. So he stabbed himself right in the palm of his hand with a ritual dagger, and it was a pretty big cut, and we had to go to the hospital. And so we wrapped up his hand as well as we could. We brought the ritual dagger along with us, which was very fun to explain to the doctor that he had stabbed his hand with a ritual dagger. Tetanus shots all around.
I know, it was old. It was an old antique.
Yeah, lots of stitches and tetanus shots. But what was very strange is, as we were driving to the hospital, which is just about 5 minutes away from where we live, it's not too far. We were driving to the hospital. My phone received a phone call, and I was
weird
panicked.
for you.
Again, as I said, very weird for me. My phone number is unlisted. It's not normal for me to get phone calls. And I didn't know that it had happened because we were literally on our way there, and I was sort of panicked about Greg's hand, worried about, how his hand was going to be. So my phone received a phone call and then a weird message that was recorded into my messages that we didn't play back for a couple hours later because we were very focused on getting Greg to the hospital and getting him lots of tetanus shots. This was the phone call. So this is all that's on the phone call. That was it.
That's kind of creepy.
That was it.
You hear the click. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You hear the click. Of course, you would have looked up the number.
Yes.
We looked up the number.
We did.
It came from a very weird place, a place that never ever would have called us.
No.
I don't know if we want to say yet because we don't know what this might be involved with.
I think we should probably save that part for later.
Maybe
another
we'll tell
day.
you on tour.
Yes. But That very weird message was left just randomly on my phone as you and I were driving to the hospital to get your hands
During a very
stitched up.
intense, weird time.
Yes.
It had to do with a very specific artifact.
Yeah.
It was a very weird combination of events that happened all at the same time. So,
yeah. I'm not going to lie. I was actually kind of excited about it because as we've talked about many times, we've wanted, those Men in Black phone calls. So I was pretty happy about it.
well, so they might still happen. I don't know. You just got to get 6 of the most painful stitches you could get.
Right in the palm of your hand. Ugh.
Yeah.
Do you believe that an ordinary object can be cursed? You will. Join Greg and Dana Newkirk, 2 of the world's only full-time paranormal researchers and hosts of the Haunted Objects podcast, for a spine-tingling, interactive evening of true supernatural tales told by the very people who lived them.
And he starts to stand up, and I go, oh, that's it. I'm actually going to die. And I'm thinking, how long can I hold this guy off while Dana runs screaming into Gary, Indiana in the middle of the night?
Dare to lock eyes with the restless face. Uncover the dark secrets contained within the Catskills chrome. Learn the fiery truth behind the cursed crying boy paintings. And more. But that's not all. In this show, you'll leave with a ghost story of your own by becoming part of the Newkirk's most daring experiment yet. The creation of the world's most haunted dolls. Your energy. Your intent.
Oh my gosh, her eyes look like it just moved.
Your fears. All woven into vessels that only you can awaken. Haunted Objects Live. You'll laugh. You'll scream. You'll sleep with the lights on. Visit newkirktour.com.
We get a lot of stuff in the mail. 9 times out of 10, we don't experience anything. But that last 10% is where things get really interesting. And occasionally, there's 1% that changes the way that we think about haunted objects.
We bind it to the nails,
and we release it.
The Unbinding, now available on Blu-ray, exclusively at planetweird.store.
Do you guys remember the first time you ever heard a recording from a DR60?
I actually don't.
I think the first time that because here's the thing.
Ghost Adventures.
I never watched paranormal television. I just did not watch it.
Yeah.
I think the first time I ever heard one was in person.
I think that's probably true.
The first time I ever heard a DR60 was at a ghost hunting event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's right. The first time I remember specifically seeing the DR60 was during like public ghost hunts.
Yes.
And I remember they were kind of everywhere and everyone was using them. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like it's an interesting recorder. It's doing it's great for this kind of an environment.
And I remember being stunned because I couldn't believe how easily they were picking up EVPs. Because, again, we grew up as ghost hunters. You know how hard it is? Like, how much you have to slog through an old recording to find anything weird?
Yeah.
Especially, like, your experience. You guys were doing it where you were leaving them there all day long and then listening through it later. Even ours, like, we would sit and we would do these 10-minute sessions, and very rarely would anything come out of one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And when it did, and it was easy to hear, you didn't have to like put it into software and raise it up in the spectrogram. It was stunning.
Yeah.
And so I was watching people do this almost every time they would do a session.
Yeah.
And quite often, it really did sound like sentences were being said, like full words were being said. It was actually kind of scary.
Yeah.
We would always ask, because I was curious. I mean, that's the thing. I'm a very curious person. I wanted to know, like, what makes this thing different?
Mm-hmm.
And what I would always hear from everybody, whether it was somebody who was leading a ghost hunt, whether it was somebody who was on television using one, I think they've even said it on television, was that the thing that made this different was that this could record above and below the human hearing level.
Yes, I have heard that many times.
So many times, in fact, that when we finally came into one and we started to use one, we were just repeating the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, even we've said that.
This is the Panasonic DR60. It picks up frequencies above and below the human hearing level within voice activation.
I just assumed, well, that's what this thing is doing. It's taking recordings that the human ear can't hear and it's crushing them down and then it's playing them back. Because these things were voice activated.
Yes.
That was the big deal about these. You didn't have to sit and wait. It would only record if it heard a voice.
Yeah, so it made it perfect, like literally the most perfect recorder to do a burst session with, because you didn't have to sit through any dead air at all. It would only record if there was a sound.
And I got to be honest, it's a real spooky deal when you're sitting in the dark and you're asking questions to a ghost, and then you start to see that recorder blink and it's silent in the room. It's very spooky to see.
Even playing it back while you're sitting there. You just asked a question like 3 seconds ago and you're playing it back and hearing something.
Yeah.
It is very, very scary.
These came out in 1998.
Yes.
Connor did a bit of digging and found some old advertisements for this thing.
It's so cool.
The ultimate holiday gift guide. $99.
Can you imagine that
in 1998?
1998 they were only $99, and now you can buy broken ones on eBay for like $1,200 bucks.
Yeah, at least $1,000 minimum.
Easily.
They were $99 at the time, which is how much in today's?
It's about doubled, about $200 today.
$200. I don't think most people who are ghost hunters these days would bat an eye spending $200 on a piece of equipment.
They don't. I mean,
there's all kinds of crazy stuff today.
Yeah, and we've been to many events and we've led many ghost hunts, and we were definitely out of all of the people there, not the only people walking around with these DR60s. There were a lot of people who had them for sure.
You'll notice in the advertisements, Panasonic was very excited that this was an integrated circuit recorder, that this was electronically recorded into binary data, ones and zeros, as opposed to the dictaphones like Dana was walking around with. So this was like Panasonic changing completely what it is. That's why it says IC in such big letters right there in the front of the box.
Right.
Where it's like, I mean, today every recorder's an IC recorder.
Right.
But now it's like, that's a big deal.
These things didn't have memory cards in them.
Mm-hmm.
No.
They had just a dedicated storage in them. And once you filled it up, that was it. You'd have to start deleting things. And the really annoying thing, even still about these, is the fact that it doesn't have removable storage media.
Yes.
The only way to record this to a computer is with the headphone jack.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to actually plug an audio cable into your computer and then record it. Or, as I think most people have done on these television shows, they record this directly into a nicer recorder.
Yes, yeah.
That you would normally use for like recording, the room audio.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would take that and play this like horribly shitty recording.
Yeah.
Low quality recording into some like nice $1,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It seems backwards, but again, like I said, this thing was special.
Yeah.
There was something unique about this. There's a lot of urban legends about it.
My favorite urban legend is that they stopped making them because they were recording ghost voices, and Panasonic was like, we put an end to this.
That's a really, really popular one.
Yeah.
Is that there would be businessmen and like lawyers and doctors.
Yeah, there's ghosts on my recordings.
Yeah,
that's literally part of it.
This voice.
Yeah,
and then people got scared and they sent them back, and then Panasonic said, "Uh-oh. We've unlocked the secrets between life and death.
Pandora's box.
We should stop making these."
Yeah. And then they locked them all in
I
the
guess we can just stop the episode now, can we? We figured out this doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, wait a minute.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No, I think they just imagined, I think the truth is probably that they thought these things were getting a ton of radio interference.
Sure.
And they were poorly shielded.
Yeah.
And so what did they last? They only made them for a couple years, right?
Yeah, by 2000, they're in advertisements is marked down $20-$30.
Yeah.
And so they're discounted, they're getting rid of it. And so I would assume by, 2001, they were not making them. They were done.
That was it. So they were only made for like a few years then, really, at the end of the day.
There is you have one quote that you pulled from a website that says this was from 2017, the best EVP spirit voice recorder in the world. Hear the dead directly. So this is, that was a pretty popular website with a pretty popular investigator. So this is the way that this thing was being talked about. It was the way that it was being shown on all the paranormal television shows. This was your best portal to the other world.
Yeah.
I want to make this clear. This was gifted to us because even when we were interested in these things, there was no way I was spending $1,000 or more on one.
No.
But we had a friend who had like 5
3 or 4 of them, I think. Yeah.
And was like, now you guys are doing cool stuff. See what you can find out about these.
Yeah.
Which was great. And we've been able to do that today.
You know, the urban legend that I heard about it wasn't necessarily that it was hearing like above or below, but rather that it had something going on inside of the recorder that the ghosts had enough like intermixings to play with.
Interesting.
The sounds.
As you know what's funny about that, though?
It's like Play-Doh that they can make something out of.
Interesting.
That they can't with other recorders.
I feel like that same idea, that same legend has sort of shifted to future devices.
Yes.
Which makes me feel like this was a Ghost Adventures thing, because a lot of that stuff that Ghost Adventures, a lot of stuff that people use today.
Yeah.
In ghost hunting, even stuff where people are trying to be very scientific has literally come out of Ghost Adventures.
Oh yeah, like the difference is like you didn't like watching ghost hunting television. I love Ghost Adventures. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my favorite things ever. It's a guilty pleasure, we'll put it that way.
Okay,
but they've definitely they were definitely using this specific recorder back in the day. I don't think they've been using them for many years now, but definitely at some point in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they were for sure using the DR60.
And I've heard that about other things, is that devices have been made specifically so that ghosts can get into the mechanism and fiddle around with it and mold whatever kind of sound or beep or whatever they're trying to do with it by direct influence of the device itself. Maybe that came from this. So we've already played you earlier all of our favorite recordings from the early days.
Yes.
Now we want to play you some of our favorite DR60 recordings. These ones are going to sound a little bit different like those other ones because it is a special recorder. There's a reason that this thing has been used by every major ghost hunter. It's why it's on all the TV shows. It's why it's on every tour that you take to go ghost hunting with your favorite ghost hunters. This will sound a lot different. We want to start this. We've got a selection of a few that we've picked out that are some of our favorites. Most of them revolve around an item in the museum that maybe someday we'll tell you more about. This was at Eastern State Penitentiary.
It was.
We were there leading a ghost hunting group. There were probably, 10, 15 people in the room on the other side of the camera.
Think so. Yeah, what's interesting about it is the video itself was taken by one of the people that were going to the event.
Yes.
And the recording was taken on Jeff's DR60. So it was we were very lucky that everyone involved were able to give us the stuff afterwards.
You know what's so funny now that I think about this? I think this might be the first time we ever saw one of these in action in person.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I think it was at this event very likely.
Okay, and what I want you to remember as you watch this clip, again, watch Jeff's face, watch the way that he looks at us because he knows, well, this is strange because this didn't normally happen.
Yeah.
And I have to remind you, this was voice activated. So this thing should not have been recording anything unless it thought it was hearing noise.
Yeah. So the video itself, most of the video will be completely silent.
Yes.
And we left that in just so that you could also experience the complete silence.
Yes.
It's Katrina from Portals to Hell.
It's our friend Jeff. He's the one leading this tonight. That's the idol. God, we look so young, Dana. So that was all silence.
All silent.
It's the same recorder that Nick used, that you obviously used throughout the night. Here we go. Everybody ready?
Are you serious? What the heck?
That's the audience.
That's the audience, yeah.
Those are people who came to ghost hunt with these guys.
Yeah, I think Jeff's face says it all.
It does say it all. And again, you can hear it was totally silent. Any of those, like the scratching that you heard was literally the camera. It was the internal microphone on the video camera that was, I don't know, 10 feet away from us at that point.
Yeah.
And then you just hear what sounds like guttural screaming, which was, I'll admit, the first time I'm hearing that and seeing that in person, knowing how quiet the room was, knowing the reputation that these things have. So you can immediately hear, this sounds a little bit different than the EVPs we were playing earlier. Scratchier.
Yeah.
The quality sounds like it's a little bit lower, but like, again, that's pretty quick that happened.
Yes.
Spooky stuff. Sounds like screaming. That's a great indication of what these things were capable of.
Yeah.
And you hear everybody's response to it in the room.
Yeah.
People were shocked.
Yeah, everybody was shocked.
Yeah. I don't have a translation for you on that one because it was just screaming.
Yes.
There's just no way to know what that was. This is where things start to get a little more interesting. So this is, again, with the Idol of Nightmares. Also, again, his nickname was Billy. We were at Ashmore Estates.
Yeah.
And we're there, again, with Jeff, who you saw in the video earlier. The way that this worked was we weren't getting anything on the recorder. I don't know if you remember this. We were getting nothing. And we were all kind of stunned because the last time we were getting tons of recordings.
That's right, yeah.
Of like screaming.
Yeah, we were shocked because we were like, wow, well, this is an incredible thing. Like, we're not getting any kind of a response. And it was completely different than it was the previous time we had done that investigation.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, well, I think Jeff had the idea where Jeff was like, why don't you leave the room?
Yeah,
see what happens when you're not next to it.
Yeah, he said, go out into the hallway and see what happens.
Reasons for all of this that we'll get into someday when we tell Billy's story. So I went out into the hallway, and then Jeff did a recording session by himself. And this is what we got out of it.
This recorder on, sitting at the base of the item. Billy, where did Greg go? Seemed like it. I'm glad he's gone. Cut that.
What's the rating?
Oh, that's an A.
That's clearly an A.
That's clearly an A.
Yeah.
If
A plus, baby.
If you're listening to the audio podcast, we'll tell you what we think we hear.
Yeah.
And then play it one more time. What we hear is, at the very beginning, you hear Jeff at the start of the session say, I'll take the recorder, set it at the base of the idol. Then you hear overlapping Jeff say, Billy. You hear what sounds like Billy say, hi. So he says, where did Greg go? And it sounds like the response is outside, mother. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, I feel like the laughter is very clear.
The laughter sounds very clear. And it really does sound to me like outside, mother. And then Jeff says, do you like it when Greg's gone? And Billy says, he's not gone, Jeff. He's in the hallway. Do you want him to come back? Jeff says. And then you hear, come back, Greg. That's what we hear. We'll play it one more time for you.
Yeah.
This recorder on, sitting at the base of the item. Billy, where did Greg go? Seemed like it. I'm glad he's gone. Cut that.
There you go. That's one of my favorite DR60s.
Yeah.
We'll play you another Billy one here. So this is same night.
Yep.
And this instead is me talking to Billy directly. We'll play that and you can see what you think you hear.
Billy, this is the third group of the night. Can you say hi to everybody? How do you think tonight's been going so far? Can you tell everybody what your real name is? You happy to be hanging out with Jeff again? What do you think about the dark mirror?
Okay.
Every time the laughing happens,
the laughing.
it's so clear.
Kind
to
of
me.
maniacal laugh.
It's such a good laugh. It's so good. It's hilarious.
So what I hear in this is, all right, Billy, this is the third group of the night. Can you say hi to everybody? And it sounds very clear
It's
to
so
me,
clear.
like
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's the clearest of them all on the DR60.
Yeah.
After he says hi, everybody, I said, how do you think the night's been going so far? And I hear pretty good.
Pretty good is very clear too.
Can you tell everybody what your real name is? I can't. It's a secret. Happy to be hanging out with Jeff again? I like Jeff. What do you think about the dark mirror? Bad energy. Are you happy? And then I just hear like laughter or a scream. And then, where are you from? I ask him. And it just sounds like laughter.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. It was very difficult to figure out where this thing was.
Yeah.
Again, we'll tell the story someday.
Yeah.
But it gives you a really good idea of what's going on with the DR60.
Mm-hmm.
Really, this is the third group of the night. Can you say hi to everybody? How do you think the night's been going so far? Can you tell everybody what your real name is? Are you happy to be hanging out with Jeff again? What do you think about the dark mirror? Are you happy?
It's an A.
Oh, it's definitely an A. That was an A plus.
Double A.
Double A's.
Double A's. We are trying to get to the bottom of this, so we'd be remiss if we didn't put our skeptic hats on for a minute and talk about some of these skeptical ideas about what might be actually happening in an EVP session. Some of them are very, very simple. Some of them are literally just that people are hoaxing them, that people are just making this stuff themselves.
Yeah.
I think we all probably have a story about encountering someone who's maybe doing a little bit of funny business.
Oh, yeah.
People faking stuff at the Stanley all the time. It was always the disbeliever dad who would do a little whisper to scare his teenage daughter.
Yeah.
Things like that. That was a standard. I have
Are you
one.
going to tell this story?
I don't know.
Maybe don't name names,
I'll
but
save
it
it
is
for
worth.
live stream.
It is worth mentioning.
This is a story. I don't know if it's fakery or not. I walked in. This is again at the Stanley Hotel while I was an employee. I walked into an empty room.
Yeah.
Known to be haunted in the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah.
To a very famous paranormal investigator standing, very famous, standing alone inside of that room, holding it up an EVP, a recorder, and asking questions to the empty room, sounding a little bit agitated in some of the questions, asking questions to the empty room. I walk in and I'm like, what's going on here? Clearly had interrupted and apologized. The investigator walks over to me, actually puts it up to my ear. We listened to some EVPs together. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I always took that as a wow, even when the cameras aren't rolling, these people are interested in this, right?
Yeah.
And I remember one particular time where I was telling that story and somebody went, well, what if he was like making the recordings in advance before that night?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Didn't even cross my mind. So it could honestly be either way. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they record when the cameras aren't rolling, or these oddly pre-scripted stuff?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But that is a personal thing that I saw with my own eyes. I don't know.
I mean, we did a lot of events back in the day with a lot of different people from a lot of different television shows. Pretty much anybody you could imagine, we've done stuff with. And I remember one event. We were almost positive that we saw some folks who were blowing into the microphone.
Yes.
And then when they would play it back, the EVP back, you would hear what sounded like a scream or something.
Yeah.
So I'm almost positive that was happening in that case.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
Yeah. I think the thing that you have to take into consideration is that like there's a level of trust that has to be there. There's a person that's actually doing the thing. So it's all about whether you trust that person or not.
Right.
It has to be factored in. There's somebody who's actively doing the recording and asking questions. So you hope that person is someone who's actually doing it because they care about it and not someone who's doing it because they're faking stuff.
And that is where the whole, ghost hunters method of doing things, where you're tagging everything.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. So it does come from a positive place.
Yes.
It's not like trying to ruin anybody's fun.
Yeah.
You do want to be vigilant in these types of things, especially when you're looking at extraordinary claims.
Yes.
The other explanation that you see quite a bit is that it's potentially some kind of electronic interference that's happening. Most of that doesn't necessarily mean that is like hoaxing. It's just that these devices all accept interference. They have to. The back of every single one of these devices says must accept, the FCC declares this item must accept interference. Because otherwise it's generating a ton of stuff that will cause interference.
Yes, yeah.
So it's there. They have to accept that. And you can hear it, even on the recording that Connor shared.
Yeah,
earlier.
where the recorder was alone, you hear little. It's an electronic signal going through the recorder.
We have to put our phones on airplane mode before we record the podcast.
Yep.
Because if we don't, you'll hear it when it sends a signal or receives a signal. It goes ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da. You've probably heard it a million times and you didn't know what it was. In fact, that was part of the problem of setting the studio up. We had to buy specifically shielded cables for things. Otherwise, it would be susceptible to radio interference.
Yep.
Now, to mix both of those two, I'll tell you this. One of the secrets about paranormal television that I don't know why nobody ever talks about is the fact that the walkie-talkies that the crew uses to speak to each other, they will actually cause momentary interference in all of the electronics to the point where anytime you see those like crazy EMF spikes, it's almost always somebody's walkie-talkie on the crew.
Yeah.
You'll never hear it because they all go to earpieces, but I don't think they tell the talent this. I don't think they ever share that. Anytime you see an EMF spike on television, you probably should disregard it because it could literally be caused by a PA just going.
Yeah.
And it does it for audio too.
Yes.
So people could fake that if they really wanted to. But the most popular conception about what EVPs are just people mishearing things.
Yeah.
It's a very popular one. Pareidolia. Pareidolia, you hear it all the time. Oh, that weird face that you see in that photograph and that smoke, that's your mind making you see that face. It's pattern recognition. A lot of skeptics will tell you that most EVPs are just that. Maybe you believe the same thing. If you listen to the EVPs we played earlier and you couldn't hear what we heard, you probably heard what we heard after we told you what it was.
Yep.
That's how this works. That's how skeptics believe that this works. They actually have done a couple experiments with this and believe that they've come to some conclusions about it. In 2001, there was a psychology professor, Harold Merkelbach, and a neuroscience.
What a name.
That's a great name. Sounds like someone who would be involved in EVPs.
Yes.
And the neuroscience professor, Vincent van de Ven in the Netherlands, they performed an experiment that they called the White Christmas experiment. And what they did is they played Bing Crosby's White Christmas when participants walked into a room, and then they told them it would be played under white noise, and they should all signal when they heard that played under the white noise. So the catch was they never played the song under the white noise. 14 out of 44 participants signaled that they could hear the song at least once. That's a pretty big amount of them. That's over a quarter, right? So bad at math. That's why I hunt monsters. It's kind of a big group of people that thought that they heard that there. The other thing that they made a correlation that all of those 14 people had the highest scores on something called the LSHS scale, which measures imaginative and fantasy prone beliefs. So if you're a person who's very imaginative, you're very creative, you're very fantasy prone, you probably would have heard White Christmas playing under the noise, even though it wasn't there.
The fun, basically. Fun people.
The fun people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Sure, for sure. I mean, we could pontificate on that. I think that those are the types of people that you typically find most like weird stuff starts to happen around.
Sure.
Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. One of the things that we used to say before ghost hunts all the time when we were leading public ghost hunts was, don't be the person that everything's happening to.
Yes.
Because that kind of ruins it for everybody else. Yeah. Just try and be self-aware that like other people want to have an experience too. Every single group, there's always one or two people. Every single thing is happening to them.
Even if you tell them, it's like it supercharges them and they're like, oh, I definitely have to be that person.
Yes. So they probably scored pretty high on that fantasy prone scale.
Yeah.
There was another experiment that was done. This one was a little bit earlier. This one was in 1958. English psychologist David Bruce printed findings in the Journal of Language and Speech titled The Effect of Listeners' Anticipations on the Intelligibility of Heard Speech, where he tested audio preconceptions by playing a set of recorded sentences at the same time as a noise loud enough to make the voices heard but not understood. So the way that this worked was before playing each set of sentences, he would tell the group what the general topic the sentences were about, but not what they said. Then he would play the recording and then ask people what they heard. Each participant would give a sentence that related to the topic that he'd already told them. But of course, after the experiment, it was revealed that they all heard the exact same recording and they all got different explanations for what was being talked about.
Yeah, so they were front loading these people basically, and they knew what they were listening for ahead of time.
It's like confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Intentionally.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Proving that. And here we are, we're ghost hunting, and the ghosts are saying spooky things.
Yes.
And we're all sitting here, being spooked out about it.
Yes. And this actually becomes a big point in ITC, which we'll talk about in the next episode of this series. We've all been on ghost hunts where people are listening to something, and it's not until one person hears it that everybody hears the same thing on the recording.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. So there's some pretty sound arguments about what EVPs might be, some rational explanations for them. I can get behind them in many cases.
Yeah.
I think that there's absolutely evidence that some people are hoaxing these things, that a lot of this stuff is electrical interference, and that, probably the vast majority are just people making sense of chaos.
Yes.
That's just sort of the way that our minds work. Absolutely. But I think it's safe to say that all three of us have heard some of these things that are impossible to explain away.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. No, I believe in these voices.
I believe in these voices too sometimes. Not all the time, but every once in a while I hear something where I'm like, well, that, I don't know how to explain that. And it just doesn't seem like it's any one of those three explanations. This is the thing. All of us have learned about these things by watching other people do it. Whether it was you made a joke earlier about how you learned how to ghost hunt by watching my ghost hunting team.
Yep.
Probably not the best people to look up to back in that day. You watched television shows. You were part of the Taps family. You learned from watching those guys.
Yeah.
We learn from watching other people. Sometimes there's a game of telephone that's being played that is not helpful. And the best way to learn is to take the remote, turn the television show off, and actually crack a physics book. That's exactly what we're going to do now as we put our lab coats on and head to the sound lab.
To the lab!
Welcome to the lab.
Doctors.
Doctor. I concur.
Indubitably.
Is that how doctors talk?
They do. The chimney sweeps.
I don't know. I never go to them unless I stab myself with a ritual knife. And typically they just seem annoyed.
Yeah, they definitely didn't think your jokes were very funny.
No, I don't think they even believed me at first. I thought they probably thought I was doing it on purpose.
Yes, that's true.
A ritual knife?
Okay.
And it was literally just like, so tetanus shots then, huh? That was pretty much how it went.
Get a sense of humor.
I know. Come on.
Have a personality.
Come
why
on.
don't you?
You could be smart and funny.
Well.
Typically, it's a defense mechanism for not being very smart, right?
You can't take that away from me. Jeez.
You're each at least one of those things.
We're at least one of those things. Yeah. All right. So listen, now that we're in the lab,
yeah,
we need to have a heart to heart. Here's the thing. We've all been misled. And I'm not pointing fingers. Like, this isn't meant to throw anybody under the bus. I don't think that this happened on purpose. I just think that a lot of people have been repeating things that they never really bothered to research for themselves.
Yes, and that includes us.
That includes us.
Yes, we're choosing to approach this with a bit of humility, and we understand we are also part of that problem.
Connor actually deleted an entire page of the script because we didn't want to point fingers.
Yes, this isn't meant to be a finger-pointing thing, and we're not trying to be haters. We're just trying to do better.
Yes.
We had compiled a list of quotes from either Paranormal 101 books, or from very famous paranormal personalities on television, quotes, things that they have said about EVPs.
Direct quotes that have been broadcast to millions of people.
That are inherently incorrect about how this works.
Like, this is the thing. We do a lot of research on this podcast. We really, really do, because the truth is, we do care and we are obsessed with the subject matter and we really want to get it right. We want to do better. So this isn't about pointing fingers at anybody. This is about even thinking about our history in this and trying to figure this stuff out. I always joke about it all the time. I want Ghostbusters to be real. So I want to figure out how this stuff works. I want to know how it works. I need to find reasons to continue to believe in this stuff. Otherwise, my life becomes joyless. So all we're doing is trying to actually figure out how this works and share that information with you. So the next time somebody tells you, well, this is what an EVP is, this is how it works, you can go, actually, it doesn't. And here's all of the sources for how this works. And we can work toward a better paranormal research world. Connor, you read like 6 or 7 books, and what did they say about EVPs in them?
Well, the thing is, they didn't say much. That's the problem. There's a lot of introduction to ghost hunting books out there, right? Some better than others, but check out some at the library. And really, there's just a single sentence: EVPs are voices from beyond.
They're
and
dead
that's about
people
it. They're dead people
talking to you.
And then they sort of move on. They might go over the different classifications, A, B, C, and then sort of just say they get caught on digital recorders. That's about it. So there's not much of an explanation.
Right.
A lot of, even YouTubers, people on TikTok, things like that, don't, of course, really have the time, don't really sit down and explain it. And I also will admit myself, I now realize, after looking at all of these manuals and how these things work, I probably told 500 tourists at the Stanley Hotel the wrong thing. And so we're trying to rectify that today. It all changes now.
Yes.
We're coming to you in our lab coats with humility.
Yep.
To tell you what we have learned to educate ourselves. And to do this, we have to start with the very basics, which is how sound works, how we even hear sound. It's very, very simple. We're not going to go super into it. We're not actually doctors, despite the lab coats. Very, very simply, we have to start with sound. What is a sound? Very simply, sounds are vibrations, and vibrations move the air. And those vibrations hit our eardrums inside of our ears, and they vibrate our eardrums. That stimulates the inner ear, particularly the cochlea, which sends signals to the brain that we then can understand. That's how the ear works. That is sound at a very basic level.
It's like a wave of air particles literally colliding amongst each other. So you drop a pebble in a pond and you see the ripples go out. When I clap, the air particles are rushed out from in between my hands, and there's more particles being moved right here, and then they push these particles, and they push these particles, so on and so forth, all the way until it reaches this microphone or it reaches my eardrums, and then the vibrations are translated into sound.
Got it.
Sounds occur when there's contact between two things.
Yes.
That's really what it is, about contact throughout the world.
Yeah.
Contact when I set this down on the desk, contact when my hands clap, contact when you hit a golf ball. That is what makes a sound. Air particles rush out, and then the ear does its amazing thing. We're not going to get into how the inner ear and the brain works, but it's very cool.
They're just waves.
They're just waves.
They're sound waves. It's all vibes, baby.
Yeah.
It's literally vibrations.
But
right?
there are two things that every sound is a combination of. Every sound is a combination of loudness and pitch, right?
Right.
Loudness is the forcefulness of the air that is being pushed out. It's also called the amplitude. That's measured in decibels, right? So some things are big, push out a lot of air, and that is a louder sound. When less air particles are moved, it's a quieter sound. It has a lower amplitude.
Right.
The second part of every sound is pitch. The pitch is the frequency, right? So that's how many times vibrations within the sound are occurring up and down, back and forth. Think of the measurement of an up and down of a pitch, of a frequency being a hertz.
Think about this. It makes sense when you think about it in waves. The louder a sound is, the further that wave can travel. So that's the farthest, the farthest you can hear something is how loud it is.
Yeah.
And then the pitch, whether it's
super low
or whether it's
super high,
that's how many times that's going up and down a second. That's how many times that wave is crashing every second. And those are measured in hertz, which is 1 per second. That's 1 hertz. So if there's just one big hill per second, that's 1 hertz.
That's a very low sound.
As opposed to something that's going wah, 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 wah. That's a very high hertz sound.
The lowest speed of vibrations that the human ear can possibly comprehend is 20 vibrations per second. That's a very low-pitched sound. The highest that we can possibly hear is 20,000 vibrations per second. That's an extremely high-pitched sound. So from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz is the human ear's range.
Got it.
Now, almost as you're going about your day, almost every sound that you hear is somewhere between like 100 to maybe 5,000 or 6,000 hertz.
Got it.
To give you an example of the frequencies that we're talking about here as we go about daily life, the hum of a refrigerator would be 50 hertz. Human voices are between the 100 to 350 hertz range, right?
Yeah.
So I have a bit of a lower voice. I'm probably somewhere in the 100s, but SpongeBob is up in the 300s, right? And so there's that difference there. Now, it's also important to say that every voice is a combination of different tones and frequencies. Of course, my voice isn't just a straight note. You don't really hear any of that except maybe when you hit a piano key. But you get the basic idea of what we're saying here. 440 hertz is a standard A note, right? I don't know if I'll mimic it right away, but it's like, right? 1,000 hertz is when you cuss on TV.
Yep. Everybody knows what that sounds like.
Pretty high pitch. So now we're up to 1,000 hertz for that. 4,000 hertz is even a more obnoxious high-pitched sound. That's a smoke alarm beep. Okay? And then 5,000 hertz might be the very tip of what a violin can play. When it gets beyond that, it starts to become textures. They say a tambourine can get up to 7,000 or 8,000 hertz.
Got it.
On the very high ranges like that.
And it's hard science.
Yes.
Like this isn't something that changes. Some people have better hearing than others.
Yeah.
Our hearing changes as we get older. That's one of the funny things is kids can hear higher pitches than old people can. There's special ringtones that they make for phones that adults can't hear and kids can hear. So things can change, but generally these numbers are pretty well static. They're not going to move very much.
Yeah.
The sounds that are beyond our range of perception are called ultrasonic sounds. So that's above 20,000 hertz, also known as 20 kilohertz, kilo being 1,000. Or sounds that are below the 20 hertz range are infrasonic, right? So infrasonic sounds and ultrasonic sounds are beyond what we can possibly comprehend.
Which is allegedly what this recorder can pick up.
Yes.
That has always been what we've been told, that this picks up noises above and below the human hearing level. Ultrasonic and infrasonic noises. Infrasonic noises, we should say, those things can actually make you feel sick.
Yeah.
There was a big scandal that happened a long time ago where there was a group of professional haunters. And I'm not talking about like people who, they're people who work at like fake haunted houses, like attractions, right? One of the things that they use is they use these big long tubes that create infrasound, sound that we can't hear, but we can feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes we even feel it and don't know that we're feeling it.
Yeah.
And it can make you feel senses of fear. It can make you scared.
Make you feel weird.
There was a group of people who were being called into famous haunted locations to install these so-called fear tubes so that ghost hunters who would go to these places looking for real ghosts would start to feel the hair stand up on the back of their neck. There are a lot of attractions out there who are probably using infrasound to get very specific reactions out of people sincerely looking for spooky experiences. The question is, if this thing can pick up sounds above and below the human hearing level, how is it taking those noises and crunching them down so that we can hear them? Is that something that this thing can even do? Guess what? That's not the case. It's actually not possible.
So now that we understand that the human hearing range is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, we now have to ask, okay, that's what my ears can hear. Now, what can the recorder's ears hear? And the recorders have been telling us all along. What this is called is frequency response. It's a more straightforward way of saying the portion of the audio spectrum that a recorder is designed to pick up, right?
How good its ears are.
How good its ears are. So if we look at, and I have all of the recorders that we use traditionally in ghost hunting, you know, between us, and I would bet that really any handheld recorder that you have, you can Google the manual and you can see this for yourself as well, what the frequency response is. So let's start a little bit old school. Let's go back to AVP stuff. This right here, which I've used in ghost hunts before. We've used them in this one in live streams before. A Panasonic RQ2739 tape recorder. The frequency response, according to the manual, from 100 to 7,000 hertz, right? So anything beyond 7,000 hertz, it is physically incapable of picking up.
That is well within the human hearing range.
Well within. This is one of my favorite recorders. This is the one that you heard the majority of the EVPs were captured on from earlier in the episode. This is the Olympus 4100 PC. The extra high quality mode that this recorder runs goes from around 300 to 7,200 hertz in its typical
within the
frequency
human hearing
response
frequency.
range. Completely. You have right here Dana's recorder. So we looked at the manual for Dana's recorder that she used throughout investigations and back on girly ghost hunters. The Sony ICD B26 frequency range listed 160 hertz to 3,300 hertz.
Yep.
It's possible that when you open this manual, it's going to list something called the sample rate or the sampling rate. That is a roundabout way of sort of saying what the frequency response is. I'm kind of oversimplifying based on what I understand here. But basically the sample rate is how many samples the recorder is taking per second.
Yeah.
So if it says the sample rate is 48, kilohertz or 48,000 hertz, that means it's taking 48,000 samples of a sound per second. There's something called the Nyquist theorem, where the easy way to figure out what the frequency response is, if your manual only lists a sampling rate, is just to cut the numbers in half.
Yeah. And it could vary just a little bit, but the hard and fast rule is that you can take that sampling rate, cut it in half, and that's your frequency response.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we look at the sampling rate or the manual of the Zoom H1N, another recorder, very popular, used among ghost hunters. It has these two microphones paired up, XY recorders. The sampling rate that's listed is 48,000 hertz of a sampling rate. So it's about 24,000 hertz. It is its maximum
That's
potential.
the highest it can go.
And that's within the human hearing range. So once you head up into like the $100, maybe $150 range, you start to get handheld recorders that do actually mimic, or at least can comprehend, what the human ear is hearing.
Right.
We tested this too last night.
We did. It was fascinating.
It was so cool because there's straight up audio sweeps that you can listen to on YouTube, where the tone goes and it goes all the way up to the high frequency sounds. And as we're watching these recorders, we listen back, drop off one by one.
One by one.
Suddenly it's not even comprehending what's going on.
Nope.
And
we can hear way more.
Yeah, and we're sitting there plugging our ears.
Yeah.
Because it was so obnoxious.
Yep.
But the recorders
can't do it.
Dead space.
Here's the thing, though. That doesn't mean that there aren't recorders that can't go beyond that spectrum.
Sure.
The issue is that those are highly specialized recorders.
Yeah.
That are not being made for off-the-shelf use. You're not going to the store. You're not buying that off the shelf. That's being made very specifically for very specialized use. So like, I don't know. Listening to bats.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that you can get that will hear above the human hearing level.
Yeah.
That you can then run into like an audio program, bring that down into the human hearing level. But that's scientific equipment.
Yes.
The other thing that can hear above and below the human hearing level are a lot of audio recorders that are used for like film and television audio, musical audio, things like that.
Yeah.
There's very specific reasons that you would want to use that. Connor's showing one on screen right now that is literally what we use to record Hellier with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the microphone that I recorded the interviews for Hellier, for the Unbinding. It is a Rode NTG3 with a frequency response. I mean, it could maximize up at 96,000 hertz.
Yeah.
Way up there. Of course, the question becomes, why do that at all? Fair question, honestly. It sounded, based off my limited knowledge, like some audio files are like, well, it's a richer sound, it's fuller, there's more textures potentially in there. But the
more
other
data, basically, to work
there's
with.
a lot more data. You could slow stuff down and have it be a little bit more high quality. You can, pitch shift, things like that.
Yeah.
With these nicer recorders. But these are not, I mean, this is at least $700.
Yeah.
For sure.
Not handheld stuff.
And that's the thing. You never see ghost hunters using equipment like that.
Yeah.
They're using that to make their TV shows, but they're not using it to record their EVPs, which I think is funny because if the truth was that they were trying to get stuff above or below the human hearing level, well, they would just be talking to the sound guy that's just sitting on a stump outside of the frame the whole time.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy who has the audio. And when he's going through all that audio, he's the one who's going to be hearing that weird stuff. What we are establishing right now, like the point of why we're telling you this is EVPs, at least ones that are captured from this type of stuff, any off-the-shelf audio equipment that ghost hunters are always using for this stuff, that means EVPs are not vibrations in the air. They're not normal produced sounds, because that means that we would hear them even when these things are not.
Right.
We have better hearing to hear what an EVP allegedly is with our own equipment than this stuff. And that means that it's not something that is magically heard by these recording devices, then scrunched down so that we can hear them ourselves.
That's not the case.
It is impossible. And you can see this for yourself by just reading the manual. The manual will tell you how good the ears on your device are. Yours are almost always going to be better. So that leaves us with a question. What are these weird recordings that people are capturing on these things if they are not the air moving and it is not something outside of the range of our hearing? Well, it must be happening inside of the recorder itself. A literal ghost in the machine, if you will.
Well, why don't we open up our recorder then?
Let's open the recorder up. Let's see what's inside. Let's figure out how these things work and see where that ghost might be fiddling around. Do you wish you could have weekly episodes of the Haunted Objects podcast? If so, you're in luck because we just launched Museum Mailbag, a companion show where we dive deep into previous episodes' topics, answer your questions about the unexplained, and reveal the secrets of the universe.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. The only way to get the show is to become a member of the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal. Becoming a member doesn't just support the show, it also gives you access to monthly live-streamed adventures and experiments with us.
And a magical monthly subscription box with live classes about the occult and witchcraft with me.
Plus, you'll get downloadable goodies, exclusive merch, and more.
To join the museum and get your weekly dose of the Haunted Objects podcast and so much more, join us at patreon.com/paramuseum. One of the things that you often see when people are building things is they take a cue from nature. So what an audio recording device is, what a microphone is it's kind of a mechanical eardrum. When you look at it, it has a diaphragm inside. Every single one has the same thing. It has a diaphragm inside. Sometimes that's just a little piece of paper. Sometimes they're a little bit nicer. But their whole purpose is to act as a mechanical eardrum. It captures the sound waves as they move through the air. And then as they bounce off of that drum, that sensitive drum translates that into an electrical signal, the ones and zeros, so to speak, which is what's recorded on your recording device. When you play that back, it actually works the opposite way. The first thing you think of when you think of a very loud speaker is you think of that speaker going boom, 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 just moving back and forth. Well, it's pushing the air. It is taking that electrical signal. It is translating it into that trampoline, and it's pushing that air. The bigger the trampoline that you can make, the more air you can move, the louder that sound is. It's why every single trope about loud music comes with humongous speakers. Mm-hmm. It's just a bigger way to push the air. In a very simple way, that's how your recording devices work.
Now, there are two kinds of microphones: dynamic microphones and condenser microphones. Dynamic microphones we're not as concerned with, but just to very quickly explain how they work. Dynamic microphones are the microphones that are a little more direct, right? So you think of like Bob Barker or a newscaster holding a microphone up to somebody. It picks up what's right in front of it. The podcast microphones that we're talking into right now are dynamic microphones. The way that those work is there's actually a magnet coil diaphragm kind of system inside of the microphone itself. So there's a diaphragm, that little trampoline that's bouncing up and down as the sound waves hit it, as the air particles hit it. And then attached to that is a coil, which is running electricity through it. And then inside of that is a magnet that is constantly magnetized. And basically when the diaphragm is bouncing up and down, the coil moves as well. And it is measuring the differences in voltage as things bounce up and down in that electrical relationship between the coil and the magnet. So that's how a dynamic microphone works. These microphones that we have in front of us here, every single one of these handheld recorders are condenser microphones. Those work a little bit differently. Condenser microphones use a diaphragm, again, that very bouncy material, that bendable material that changes as the sound waves, the air particles hit it, and a backplate. So they have two different things. There's a diaphragm and then a backplate. That forms what's called a capacitor, right? A capacitor, basically, the way that I heard it simplifies is it sort of it's an area where there's an electrical relationship happening, right? So think of it as like a little box. There is a backplate on the back, usually some sort of very sturdy metal. Some are gold-plated, things like that. And then there's a diaphragm up above. Now, there is an electrical charge that's going around the outside of that box. And as the diaphragm moves up and down, the voltage is changing inside of the capacitor, being translated into zeros and ones, being stuck on the recorder that way. So that's how a condenser microphone works.
So basically, every time you press record on that microphone, it enables that electrical charge to sit inside of that capacitor. And that's kind of the, imagine it almost like as the sponge. And so every time that the diaphragm vibrates, the electrical charge on that kind of changes a little bit, and it turns that into a signal that is recorded onto your data recorder.
Exactly. And then you have a bunch of zeros and ones that to the recorder are changes in electricity. But to us, it's data that is sound. It is the recording.
Got it.
That then gets played back. So that's how the basics of our understanding of how a condenser microphone is working here. Now, the thing with condenser microphones, they're either extremely cheap or extremely expensive. There's not really a middle ground so much with condenser microphones. The really expensive condenser microphones are that way because, you know, imagine it's the kind of microphone that captures, like, unlike a dynamic, which captures what's right in front of it as I tap on this microphone. This is dynamic. A condenser captures an entire room, right?
Right.
So you can set it down.
Which is better for capturing EVPs,
That's
right?
That's what the ghost hunters would want. It makes sense. Unless you're directly interviewing a ghost. How can you do that when you don't know where the ghost is?
Exactly.
You need to hear the whole room. And so, yes, when somebody would have set down a microphone in the middle of the room to capture Led Zeppelin playing a song together, the whole band, that's a condenser microphone as well. But that's a much nicer condenser microphone than the kind of condenser microphones you'll find in $20 recorder, right?
Right.
So those, you know, heads up into there's $30,000 condenser microphones and there's $30 condenser microphones.
Right.
The more expensive condenser microphones have a more advanced electrical signal capacitor, a relationship that's going on right there that's going to be able to detect more minute changes, right?
Got it.
Compared to the more basic ones. And not only that, but condenser microphones like the ones that you'll use, you know, when recording very official like interviews or things like that, they require, the larger condensers require what's called phantom power, which means that it needs to have power supplied directly to that area around the diaphragm and the backplate.
It can't just run off of like AA batteries like the recorder.
It needs to be like plugged in.
Yeah. And a lot of that is because it needs a more sensitive field in order to capture more data.
Yeah.
So those things are basically just sucking in information as much as possible.
Yes. The more powerful the power that's going to the microphone, the more data that it can suck in.
That is how the nicer condenser microphones work with phantom power. I mean, you remember when we're recording Hellier, I'm carrying around like a little generator thing with me.
Exactly.
Just to keep the recorder running all the time.
Yep.
When we need that nicer microphone.
Yep.
The cheaper microphones do not use phantom power. They don't need to be plugged in, obviously, because we're carrying them around. They can operate off of just little AAA battery. But the condenser microphones that it's using are not nearly as nice as the ones that create a whole electrical relationship around that box.
Yes.
They're much simpler. It's what's called an electret condenser microphone. Every single recorder that we have shown today has within it an electret condenser microphone. So that is the kind we're going to look the closest at to find the ghost.
The other thing that differentiates these really, really cheap recording devices from the really, really expensive ones is shielding. So the really expensive ones have better shielding. What did we say earlier? When we were setting up the studio, one of the things that we had to do is we had to buy special shielded cables. This stuff's really expensive in a lot of times. If you want a really nice recording setup, you need to put a lot of time and energy into shielding your stuff so that you don't collect electromagnetic interference or electrical interference. The cheaper recorders don't have that stuff. We've already mentioned this before. The FCC says these must accept interference. That brings us to our thoughts about what's happening with these things. I don't think that these EVPs are actually being caused by sound waves. I think that they're actually being caused by electromagnetic interference, because I think that's what a lot of ghosts are. If we go back to last episode of this 4-part episode that we're doing on Voices from Beyond, talking about the Coons family, what were the ghosts trying to get them to build? They were saying these entities that they didn't even think were ghosts at first. They thought they were angels, things from outer space. They were saying, we need you to build an electric table, something that maybe was there to cause very minor fluctuations in the electromagnetic field. When we wear the God helmet, it is causing very minor changes in the electromagnetic field of our brains. That's the point of it. Not big ones, because that would just overpower the whole thing. We're talking about really little electromagnetic fluctuations, the kind that you would get inside of your own brain.
You can almost look at a schematic diagram of an electric condenser microphone, and you can see that little chamber.
Yes.
And you can look at it and go, okay, I know that the voice is not pushing down on the diaphragm, because that means air is moving and I would hear it with my own ears. I know, therefore, that this voice being real, we're all accepting that these voices are real here in this conversation. These voices being real must then be happening below the diaphragm, somewhere in between that piezoelectric film and the back plate. That box is being manipulated somehow by very small fluctuations in energy. And I don't think they can get through to the stronger recorders. And that's why these little ones catch those voices.
That's what we think is happening in a lot of these cases. Now, it's up to you to decide whether you think that that interference is intelligent or not. I think in a lot of cases it is. You can hear this interference yourself. You put a recording device, one of these cheap recording devices, next to your phone, next to a radio. You will get that stuff in there. You will hear what it sounds like. Compare that to some of the EVPs that you've heard that seem as if they're manipulating that sound in an intelligent way. I really do believe, I don't think ghosts are necessarily dead people these days, but I do think that the secret behind a lot of what we're experiencing are minute electromagnetic changes. Sometimes they're geomagnetic changes, places that people have experienced weird things that their minds have helped them see because the electromagnetic field has changed around their mind. I think they could probably do that to these devices too if it's a shitty enough recorder to pick up those weak enough signals.
I think what's funny is going into this episode, I've always been really skeptical of EVP only because there's so many things that can potentially get in the way of what we're really talking about. I think it's always been something that I've been a bit skeptical about. But ironically, after this episode, I believe in it more than I did beforehand, only because what we're really talking about is something that's happening on such a subtle level that it would make sense that if there was if spirits or ghosts or whatever it is that we're communicating with have the ability to do that, it would be on a level that subtle that, yeah, it does kind of make more sense to me now after the fact, which is funny. I'm leaving this episode more of a believer than I was before going into it. Like, legitimately, I actually believe in it more than I did beforehand.
Yeah, despite the lab coat too.
Yeah.
The big question, of course, that we probably all asked at some point, maybe even you, Dana, you were on a paranormal television show. It's like, why isn't the other sound equipment finding these voices?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it only these? It seems as though, it's like hitting a feather up against a brick wall versus a feather, the feather being the ghost, up against a piece of tissue paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's a weak, influenceable kind of thing in those little electric condensers versus the large condensers with phantom power. It's creating an electrical brick wall that they can't get through somehow.
Yes.
That box, around the capacitor is too strong for them to influence.
Yes.
Or there's too much going on for their influence to be noticed.
Yes.
But the little guys kind of makes sense.
The thing that you have to ask yourself about this is, are we somehow giving off these subtle electrical signals too? It's a question that we always have about ghosts anytime we're talking about them, particularly when it comes to things like ITC, which we're going to get into next week. The question is there a way that we're sending these things off? Are these things somehow picking up electrical signals from our minds, these subtle electrical signals? Or are there just like weird, free floating electrical phantoms that exist out there that can manipulate the electromagnetic field around things enough to mimic something?
Mm-hmm.
Are they really sending us signals? Are these actually voices from beyond? Maybe they're voices from within. I don't think it matters. I think there's something weird and intelligent happening in some of these cases. And I think that this is the most logical way that that's occurring.
In addition, we're talking about these small electrical changes. The Stanley Hotel, you guys have probably, you've been there too a few times.
Yeah.
The static electricity is off the chart.
Yes,
Oh, it's crazy.
yeah.
I mean, it's dry
weird.
up there anyway.
The air is dry. Everything is easily influenceable. In addition, a point that we're going to make next episode, Colorado might be a strange place.
I think it might
for these
be.
kinds of things to be happening.
Yes.
So little small changes in electricity seem to be the culprit of these EVPs.
Little small changes in electricity in the electromagnetic field can affect the way your mind works. I mean, that's the whole thesis behind the God helmet. That's the whole thesis behind how that works. And that's, one of the things that Dr. Michael Persinger, may he rest in peace, he believed that places where there was a high amount of electrogeomagnetic activity actually affected your brain, which is why certain places along fault lines or where people saw weird things, coming back to ghost hunters, one of the things that they always said on that show was, oh, you're seeing weird things because you're sleeping too close to an unshielded electrical outlet.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what they used to say the ghosts weren't real. I think that's actually something that maybe allows you to experience something else because your brain works in a different way. I think it all comes back to electricity somehow.
Doctor.
I think it's very obvious that we can throw out the idea that these things are picking up something that we can't hear. I think it all has to do with electricity, whether you want to believe that it is intelligent or not, which means I think we can ditch the lab coats.
Good.
All right, Connor, you've made everybody wait.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We've got to hear this legendary EVP now.
All right. This is a nice combination of my two ghost hunting pasts because this is when I had my ghost hunting team from Denver come to the Stanley Hotel and investigate. And we went to the concert hall in particular, which was our favorite building. If you watch Spirits of the Stanley, It's got the whole history there. Now, in the concert hall, we set up audio recorders all over the place and basically let them run all night and saw what we could pick up. And on one of the recorders that Bill was looking over, and I come over and listen to it back, what in the world was that? You hear a voice very clearly up on the upper floors of the concert hall. Keep in mind, it's just 5 adults there, no kids. And here's what they had to say.
Dude, even if you don't understand what it's saying, there's enough intonation there to be creeped out because that's a kid.
That's definitely a kid.
There was a lot of stories of a little ghost kid at that particular time as well. So this all fit within the mantra of what was happening in that moment. We thought that this is when a spirit named Eddie, who has his own story, started to kind of barge into the concert hall of the Stanley. And we were under the impression that there was potentially a little kid ghost in the upstairs area of the concert hall. We think that the little kid ghost was maybe, quote unquote, hiding in like one of the supply closets up there. And so we left this recorder running on the stage. The concert hall is extremely reverberatory, right? So you can hear us in the background.
Yeah.
And you hear us kind of in the background, clicking around, a couple people talking. And then beyond all of that, on the stage with the recorder, a child's voice says, "Come out and let's play."
Oh my God.
Oh,
it's so
God.
It's
so scary.
It's like a child's inflection, the way a kid would say that. It almost sounds old timey too. You know what I mean? Like a little like Victorian kid or something. It's so scary.
Genuinely freaky. Kid ghosts are always the scariest ghosts.
Kid ghosts are the scariest.
They're in every scary movie. You guys should absolutely check out, if you haven't watched it yet, Carl and Connor made a fantastic series called Spirits of the Stanley.
Yeah.
Which was sort of the last bit of you guys' ghost hunting days there.
Yeah.
It covers basically the end of them doing those there. It's fantastic. It's really emotional and it's really well shot. It's the first thing Carl did before Hellier.
Yeah.
So I think there's even clips of it in Hellier. Pretty cool.
It was a wonderful place. I was glad to have it to investigate, but now we're moving on. Thing I never had at the Stanley Hotel was a DR60.
All right, the DR60.
Thankfully.
We've intentionally not told you the stats about this thing until the end because this is the granddaddy. This is the thing everybody wanted. It's going for thousands and thousands of dollars on eBay. Even right now, you could probably go look at it for yourself. Is this thing as good as everybody says it is? Is it doing the things everybody says it is? Well, here's what we know. This thing was pretty much taken off the market after about 1.5 years. It only lasted about 1.5 years. It's part of the reason why these things are so special to so many people. This was one of the first things that was made to not have tape in an office setting. But how did people respond to it? They hated it.
Negatively.
Very overwhelmingly negatively.
They did not like it.
It's possible that Sony had a better version. As you can see, we dug up a Telegraph newspaper in the UK review comparing the Sony and the Panasonic DR60. It says the DR60's recordings sound abysmal compared to those captured on the Sony. Speech sounds as though it has been spoken through a comb covered in tracing paper, and the plastic case resonates badly.
Yeah, people didn't like this thing.
No.
Just 2 years later, it was listed in the Daily News for $79.99, a $20 price cut on the thing.
Oof.
And after the year 2000, there's no record of it being advertised anywhere until Ghost Hunting Television gets a hold of it, and it becomes one of these holy grail things, and people are hiding its name, and they don't want you to know what it is. And now they cost thousands of dollars on eBay. Here's a few things. Let's do some myth busting on this. The sounds on this, one of the reasons they sound so scary.
It boosts the noise floor intentionally so much so that background noises are amplified to basically be in the same level of the volume in which it's recording, right? I think that their idea was probably that what if the lawyer at the front of the room is pacing around while he's talking?
Sure, yeah.
How can we make it so that things sound normal in your voice memos later on?
Yeah.
The thing is, in practice, it just did not work.
Because it's trying to make every noise it hears the same level. So when you hear something that sounds like screaming, it might actually be something there, not actually sounding like that. It's trying to make everything sound the same level, including the noise that it's picking up.
I think that's an important note. It doesn't record any other way.
No.
It just records that way.
It just records that
recording
way.
when it hears things.
In fact, here's a fun thing. There's a version of this. I think it's the RRDR80 or the QRDR80 or something. You see those out there for, some people try to sell them for thousands of dollars.
Yeah, they look very similar.
It's another version of this that doesn't have the voice activated recording on it, but for some reason they're just not as good as picking up these weird sounds. That just doesn't happen on that version, even though it's functionally the same thing without the voice activated system.
Yeah.
People don't want that one. The official description of this says that recording automatically pauses when no sound is detected. It avoids blank portions in recordings. The function works better the lower the microphone sensitivity level. I can tell you, this thing gets way better EVPs if you have the sensitivity cranked the up. And in fact, that's how everybody uses these things.
Yeah.
I've seen it in person. Everybody cranks the sensitivity on these suckers way up.
You cannot turn off.
No, you can't.
No.
You can't
In the
turn off.
recorder
This is just
itself.
how it is.
It's your only option, basically.
It is a very noisy machine with low quality noise activated microphones inside of it in a shitty case that reverberates quite a bit.
It pops, it cracks, it makes all sorts of sounds.
Yes, but this might be the secret to this thing. It has horrible shielding from electromagnetic noise. Any kind of electric noise, it will just soak it up. These things soak up electrical interference like crazy from nearby electronics, from radio signals, even its own circuitry. You notice that this thing says IC here? They were very excited about the integrated circuit. It was new. It was unshielded.
Yes.
We've already told you what we think EVPs are. We think that it's electromagnetic interference. Some kind of electromagnetic interference interfering with the very weak signal of the recorder itself, the very weak electrical signal of the recorder itself. That means, technically, the worse shielding an item has, the better it's going to be at potentially picking up a ghost. If we do believe, if the theory is that ghosts are somehow an electromagnetic signal, which, by the way, is one of the foundational ideas behind ghost hunting, because that's why they use EMF detectors.
Yeah.
It's the number 2 device.
It's the number 2
EVP.
device. If the idea is that ghosts are somehow fluctuations in the electromagnetic field, or they cause fluctuations in the electromagnetic field that can be measured, which, by the way, also comes from Dr. Michael Persinger. Ghost hunters just kind of misinterpreted his work. They kind of inverted it. That would mean that those same ghosts that are causing fluctuations in that field could cause fluctuations in the miniature field inside of the microphone of these devices. And if they can do it intelligently, it might sound like a voice. The question is this: because this is super, super, super shitty, and nobody wanted these things for their intended purpose, does that mean that these things are actually better at picking up ghosts? I don't know if it matters, because these are so shitty as to not be able to differentiate between normal electrical interference and potentially the light electromagnetic touch of a spirit.
Unfortunately, it has everything else going against it.
It does.
Which makes it sort of an impossible thing to use for the reason that you would want to use it for if you were a ghost hunter.
It's kind of hard to test its frequency range because it's picking up stuff all the time. So we were like,
it's just a big open sieve. It's just sucking every bit of interference into it.
Yeah, so you could be capturing the spirits or the sounds of ghosts, but you probably could also be capturing the sound of your jeans while you're walking, or someone sitting down crunching on a chair.
Or literally the static electricity around your fingers, or a random radio wave.
It's almost too open. It's bringing in too much that it would be too hard to differentiate between what you're hearing. And why not pay a lot less also for a recorder that is going to be a little bit more precise?
That will give you a better recording of something strange
yes.
that you can be even more proud of.
Yeah.
And you can probably point to it being an actual strange thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with this is, I don't think that anyone who's ever using one of these things can ever tell you definitively that what it's capturing is the voice of a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can use these things for fun. They're really great when you're leading a ghost hunt for 50 people.
Sure.
And you want to do a quick burst session. I mean, you should tell people, like, here's how this thing actually works. You shouldn't tell them it's picking voices up above and below the human hearing level, because then they're going to go away with a falsity.
Yeah.
They're not going to know that's not actually what this thing is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you know that that's not true.
Yes.
This is fun. This is meant for fun. And I think that that's how this consistently should be used, is in fun, immediate situations where you don't care about the possibilities. It's just a fun thing. It's meant for reality television.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's meant for. That's the best thing it's for. I think, unfortunately, because it is so open, it's just not worth anything other than that for fun.
Here's the catch, I think, that at least I would recommend. We'll see if you guys agree. You want to get an electric condenser microphone that's operating at a pretty good frequency range, but you don't want your microphone to be too nice. There's like a nice, hefty like middle ground.
Yes.
For capturing EVPs.
Yes.
If you're able to see what the frequency response is, know what that is, know that it's not hearing beyond the human hearing spectrum, and then look at, okay, let's see what kind of microphone is inside of it. We have personally found that those small electric condensers work well.
Yeah.
Once you introduce phantom power and things like that, it doesn't seem like the ghost can get through, like we've said. The DR60, though, those functions just kind of make me personally want to toss it aside. I don't know if you would agree.
I think there's an interesting element, maybe an interesting way to use it if you have one, so that you don't feel too bummed out. Maybe there's a...
yeah, if you've invested thousands of dollars into this.
Maybe you can think of it sort of the same way that we would think of the Estes method. Maybe there's a divination use for it, where what you're listening to is something that you're interpreting, as opposed to trying to understand something through it, as if that's something speaking to you. Maybe you can utilize it in the same way that we would like a spirit box by doing the Estes method.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting thing. But again, at the same time, maybe that should be for personal use and maybe not, in group settings where you're hoping that you can communicate with someone or something that potentially was here before. That could be a bit misleading. So I think there's a way that you can use it as sort of like a fun divination tool. There's a possibility for that. But again, I think that really in a setting where you're really trying to communicate with something, or if you're trying to gather information about a place and you're wanting to connect with someone, we know how it works now. So it's very likely not going to be really useful for something like that.
I don't know. These days, I don't even really do a whole lot of EVP recordings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm way more interested in the type of things that we get through something like the Frank's box, which we'll talk about in the next episode, or what we're going to talk about in the final episode, things that create direct one-to-one contact. We spent an entire episode breaking down how EVPs work, and frankly, the DR60 is one of the least interesting ways to capture one, because it's just there to capture any kind of noise that it can get. The real Holy Grail isn't necessarily the device. It's not something that's going to cost you $2,000 that casts the widest net possible. It's the thing that you can get that actually yields you the best kind of evidence. This doesn't produce the best kind of evidence. This just produces everything. You're not going to prove that life after death exists through this thing, but you might get a few really fun moments with your friends around it. And that is the only reason that the DR60 is a haunted object.
The Haunted Objects Podcast is hosted by Greg and Dana Newkirk, produced by Connor J. Randall, with cinematography and editing by Carl Pfeiffer, and features exclusive artifacts from the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal. To learn more about the artifacts featured in this episode, take part in live interactive experiments, and enjoy exclusive Haunted Objects content, become a museum member at patreon.com/paramuseum. This has been a Planet Weird production for Spectre Vision Radio.
great. I want Carl to go back and watch while you were talking about Harlow.
Yeah.
Because I thought I saw a black line on the monkey skull shelf went from one end to the other.
Really?
And I was looking at it.
Weird.
Really?
Yeah, like it went like
I mean, maybe.
like a swipe, like a
Harlow, are you here?
like a Star Wars swipe.
Harlow, if you're here,
Our microphones are
let us know.
too shielded.
That's true. Maybe we should break out the DR60.
Or there's a bat.
Harlow, if you're here with us right now, can you let us know? Speak into this little box. Do you have a message that you'd like to deliver to us and potentially the audience of the Haunted Objects podcast?
What do you want us to highlight next week, Harlow?
Thanks, Harlow.
I feel like it's too weird to ask a question to an archetypal part of my personality. I really don't want to do that.
Harlow, if you're here with us right now, can you let us know? Speak into this little box. Do you have a message that you'd like to deliver to us and potentially the audience of the Haunted Objects podcast?
My cursor just moved.
No way.
I'm not.
Are you for real?
I just went.
That will be on camera. That'll be on the screen. That's recorded.
Who is this other me?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
It appeared while you were playing it back.
Stop
Play it again.
it.
Play it again. Let's listen
Stop
to it.
it.
Do another recording. Do another recording
Let's
right
do
now.
another recording. I'm going to leave this thing on the
put it
table.
down.
Unless Carl's like, no, it's been there the whole time. I didn't see it.
All right.
My other laptop.
Let's not assume it's Harlow. Let's just talk into it like it's a normal ghost.
Okay.
So we have weird stuff going on. We're getting ready to end the show, and some weird stuff started happening in the studio. And we thought, well, wait a second. We have all these EVP recorders. This is actually a perfect opportunity to use them.
Connor, get your other one out. Okay,
He's
good.
got it going right now. Okay, I'm gonna use the DR60. You know, the Holy Grail recorder. Let's do a little session and see if there's anything on it. Here we go. I'm hitting the record button now. Pull it up here. If there's anyone in the room with us that we can't see, maybe something that would maybe be referred to as a ghost or a spirit, maybe an extraterrestrial, this is your opportunity to give us a sign. Speak into one of these little boxes that we have in front of us with the glowing lights.
Is there a message you have for the podcast audience?
What do you think about our hypothesis about how EVPs are recorded with these electret condenser microphones?
Anything else to say?
Radova, leave a message for us.
We'll take Afra, too.
It was me laughing.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
Are you listening to that?
You're gonna do yours, Connor?
Here we go. I'm gonna put it up to the microphone.
There's anyone in the room with us that we can't see. Maybe something that would maybe be referred to as a ghost or a spirit. Maybe an extraterrestrial. This is your opportunity to give us a sign. Speak in one of these little boxes that we have in front of us, the glowing lights. Is there a message you have for the podcast audience? What do you think about our hypothesis about how EVPs are recorded with these electric condenser microphones?
It's gone.
Fatima, leave a message for us.
It's gone.
It's gone. The Connor Randall green one is gone.
Dude, I saw it appear.
It's on camera, like it's been recorded.
It's literally gone.
That's why I was like, the screen caught my eye because my name appeared in the document for a little bit.
Wait, are you saying that a doppelganger appeared in your electronic device?
That's really weird.
The closest it could. I'm sitting right here. I'm not operating any other machines.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna listen back to.
Hold on, let me finish this one. There was something after Radova. Hold on.
These electric condenser microphones. Fatima, leave a message for us. We'll take Afra, too. Thank you for being here.
I mean, there's definitely something in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's up to you to decide what it is.
You mean everything is in there?
Everything is in there.
Every single thing. That's weird, though.
Got a minute and a half left.
Really sucks doing things the old way.
No.
Nothing?
Quiet. It's okay. It's okay.
Should have used the DR.
Should have used the DR. I thought there was. I thought I saw something above Dana.
That's real weird.
Maybe
I'm
it'll
curious
be
to
on
see if it's on camera.
Just while you were talking about Harlow.
Wow.
And my eyes maybe are tired, but it was like a Lucas, like a Star Wars swipe.
Oh,
that went
weird.
from one end of the shelf to the other, like.
And then your thing.
Yeah, and then the doppelganger.
It feels a little freaky, you know.
That's freaky.
It's weird.
That's weird. That was weird.
It felt like we were like.
It was so creepy. Connor, your name was on there.
Ooh.
Why was it doing that?
I don't know because I don't have anything else.
You'd have to have it open on another computer.
My laptop upstairs.
Put the DR put it upstairs. Put it upstairs. Put it upstairs next to the computer. Put them both upstairs next to the computer.
Can I just say that that's going to be the perfect like post credit moment where we all realize that your computer's open upstairs and we all go,
go look.
Somebody's on it.
I smell like Gordy's like,
it's Gordon.